Premium articles, and exclusive originals from stars like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Clarissa Shields, and more. Sign up at espnplus.com to join the evolution or get the Disney bundle and save.
Yo, Pablo Torre here, host of the ESPN Daily Podcast. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Pablo Torre. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your
WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio.
All right, welcome in. It is the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Happy Tuesday. A short week, of course, coming off of the Memorial Day 3-day weekend. I hope everyone had a great extended weekend and excited to be back with you, hanging out with you here on 1410 WING. A lot to dive into today. We are officially 100 days away from the NFL season kicking off for the 2022 season, of course. The Cincinnati Reds have kind of turn things around. We'll talk about what that means as far as the perception of the franchise is concerned. We'll talk a little Ohio State football coming up around the corner because right now when you start to look at some of the most dynamic quarterback wide receiver duos in college football, does Ohio State have the best? We'll talk about that coming up all around the corner. Ways to reach the show, 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number you can call and be a part of the conversation. Social media side of things, of course, Facebook, The Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Like, subscribe, follow along. Same thing on our ESPN Dayton YouTube channel. And then, of course, Twitter, ESPN Dayton, at ESPN Dayton, and then at 1410 Kinner, KINNER. So, look, if the Reds aren't being bashed in the media, they're not being talked about at all. That's basically what this comes down to when you take a look at how this season has kind of transpired, and they have no one else to blame but themselves. The ownership made it pretty dang easy to start the season, but the Reds going to be back in action after an off day yesterday. They'll close out the month here in May, which is pretty crazy as we're heading into the month of June. But the Reds will close out the month of May on the road at the Red Sox. Coming up later on tonight on 1410 Wing AM, 640. Pregame coverage begins, and the Reds will have Luis Castillo on the mound. And right now it's pretty interesting, the little mini stretch that the Reds happen to be on, because of the fact that they have 3 straight series coming up against teams that are below 500. 3 straight series against teams who are below 500. That's 10 straight games against teams that are below 500. And when you look at the fact that the Reds, who started out 3-22 on the season, since the 3-22 start, they are 13-9, and that's good enough to say that, you know what, you have the 7th best record of Major League Baseball since that time frame. Now, I am one of those that I really don't like when we do that. We pinch off little lengths of time where we find numbers that fit our narrative so we could feel good about where our team is trending. But here's why I'm not totally against looking at who the Reds have been since that 3-22 start, since the Cincinnati Reds on May 6th. You started that series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Reds are 13-7, the seventh best record in Major League Baseball. What does that mean? Not a whole hell of a lot, because the Reds right now are still the worst record in baseball, or if you want to be optimistic, the tied for the worst record in baseball. They are no longer the worst team in baseball, but it is going to take a lot for them to climb out of the hole that they've created. I'm not going to sit here at any point over the next month or two and try to convince you that this team is all of a sudden going to win the NL Central. I do not think that's ever going to be the case. But you start to look at the wild card a little bit, and they are 10 games out of the wild card. Now, you may sit here and say, you know what, that's ridiculous. Don't even talk playoffs at all. I'm not necessarily saying that this team's going to be in position to make the playoffs, but my goodness, they were 14 and a half games back 2 weeks ago. They were able to make up 4.5 games in just 2.5 weeks. Okay. 2.5 weeks. The Reds made up 4.5 games with the 7th best record in baseball since that stretch when they were 3-22. Now 16-31 overall, 13-9 since that 3-22 start. Again, that gives them the 7th best record in baseball since that time frame. I've said that a lot. I'm going to keep throwing it out there, trying to put some positive mojo out there when it does come to this Cincinnati Reds team. But how much longer do we have to kind of sit back and watch this Reds team have success before we start to say, maybe there's something there? Maybe there is something there. Because I think that there is something there. I mean, if you look at the fact that during this stretch where they have gone 13-9, what if I said 7th best record in baseball since that stretch? There's something unique that's happening. I think that the key to all teams having success in any capacity of baseball is the ability to be able to pitch and pitch at a high level. And I think that the pitching ability of the Reds has actually been what has allowed them to kind of turn things around a little bit. Again, a 3-22 start and to be at 16 wins. Here we are like a month later. I think that's pretty damn good. All things considered, it's actually been the month of May. If they win tonight, they'll have a winning record in the month of May, and that doesn't happen for your Reds. The Reds don't have a lot of winning months, especially early in the season. That's usually where they shoot themselves in the foot, and let's not act like they didn't. 3-22, that's beyond shooting yourself in the foot. That's amputating both feet, never being able to walk again. That's kind of where we're at when it comes to the Reds' start to the season. But during this 13-9 stretch for your Reds, okay, this 22-game stretch that they are on where they look like a completely different ball club, pitching is the key to the success for any team out there. 13 of the 22 games, not all of the wins, by the way, but 13 of the 22 games since the Reds started 3-22, the Reds have held teams to 3 or fewer runs. That's consistency, and that's a lot of very good pitching, especially for a young rotation. A rotation, of course, that has featured Nick Lodolo, that has featured Hunter Green, that has featured Tyler Mahle, all in very sparing starts. We haven't seen Nick Lodolo consistently enough. Hunter Green has been the most consistent pitcher that the Reds have had. Tyler Mahle looks great, but he just got back not too long ago. The Reds are still waiting to get guys like Mike Minor back, who will come back for the Reds coming up on Friday. They're waiting on Justin Wilson to come back, which is scheduled to come back here in the early months of May, in the early weeks of May. There is help on the way. Lucas Sims is going to be back here sooner rather than later. So if you take a team that over the last 22 games has held opponents 13 times to 3 runs or less, and now has 13-7 in that stretch, I'm like, man, my God, the Reds have something. They're cooking here. They have something to cook with, and I think that there's going to be a point where we start to head into June, and then we close out June and head into July. Could the Reds all of a sudden be a team that's creeping back into that 500 range and being a team that's worth talking about? I don't want to hear that I'm falling for fool's gold here. Maybe I am, but at the same time, we have seen teams, especially a team, okay, like the Atlanta Braves last year who started out slow. We've seen teams in the past, the Houston Astros. We've seen teams kind of stumble out of the gate pretty slow, flip that switch, and all of a sudden there's something to cook with. I actually think that this Reds team is overachieving considering the fact that they have all these pieces missing. Like, that's what's pretty crazy to me, is the fact that they've been without Nick Lodolo for a big chunk of time. They've been without Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, Mike Minor. All right, TJ Antone hasn't made one appearance this season. Of course, he's rehabbing from Tommy John surgery. He won't be back till 2023. The Reds have been without Jose Barrero. They've been without Jonathan India. All right, they're going to get Max Strock back here in the coming days, hopefully within the next week. That's a little bit more depth with the bat. The problem with the Cincinnati Reds is their ability to score runs. I know that they just put a 20-run performance up against the Cubs last week, but at the end of the day, that's not who the Reds are. That's not who the Reds are. All right, and I'm not saying that the Reds are a team that could put 20 runs up. Obviously, there was some pop in the bat that day, but I think that was more bad pitching from the Cubs than it was great hitting from the Reds. But hitting is going to continue to be the Achilles heel of the Reds moving forward. Last point here. The interesting thing about the run of the Cincinnati Reds that they've been on, they started 3-22, as I've said a bajillion times and over repeating myself a lot to start this segment, 3-22. They're 16-31 right now, but since that 3-22 start, 13-9 as I talked about. But look at the teams that they've taken care of. They've been able to handle their own in the NL Central. Through with those 13 wins. All right, those 13 wins have all come against the Pirates, the Brewers, the Guardians, Cubs, and Giants are pretty good. Cubs and Brewers are going to be competing for that division. Pirates, well, the Pirates thought that they were going to, they were let off the hook as far as being the worst team in the division. But I think overall, when it's all said and done, the Reds, a loser mentality here, they won't have the worst record in the NL Central when it's all said and done. But not just getting wins over those teams, they're getting series wins, series splits, taking 2 or 3, splitting 4-game series. Obviously, you want to win those, but splits and series wins, that's how you chip away at a major deficit that the Reds have found themselves in the first month of the season. But getting a series split to series wins against the Pirates, taking 2 or 3 from the Brewers, splitting the 4-game series with the Cubs, taking 2 or 3, nearly sweeping the Giants over the weekend. All right, splitting with the Guardians, splitting with these teams right now over this last 10-game stretch has been very interesting because they haven't done it with a lot of run support outside of that 20-run performance against the Cubs. It's been all dominant pitching. The Reds have looked fantastic on the mound. Obviously, that big meltdown that they had just the other day that costed the Reds and Tyler Mahle a great performance, a no-hitter taken out, I think like 6 2/3 innings it was, before he was taken out with that no-hitter, and then the bullpen came in and blew it up. 162 games. You're not going to be perfect by any means, but my goodness, if you look at the Reds over that 10-game stretch, these are the run totals that they've been giving up. All right, they gave up 6 runs, obviously, to the Giants in that loss, but that was more of the bullpen kind of imploding down the stretch. They gave up 2 runs against the Giants the game before that. They gave up 1 run against the Giants in game 1. All right, they gave up 3 runs against the Cubs, 4 runs against the Cubs, 4 against the Cubs, 2 against the Blue Jays, 1 against the Blue Jays, 1 against the Blue Jays, 2 against the Guardians, shut out the Pirates, gave up 1 run against the Pirates, 3 runs against the Pirates, 2 against the Pirates, shut out the Pirates. I mean, the Reds pitching right now, controlling they're taking care of business. It's going to come down to run support moving forward. And again, when you're going to get guys like Jonathan India back, you're going to get Jake Fraley back, Jose Barrero back, and then you add the even more weapons to the bullpen and to that rotation, getting, Nick Lodolo back in the coming weeks, Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, Mike Minor. All I'm saying is I'm going to continue trying to be that glass half full guy, but the Reds are not as bad as what we think. Now, with that in mind, and if you're just joining us, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash here on 1410 Wing AM. Dayton's Reds homer station, apparently, because I'm trying to tell you that a last place team is good. I'm not. I just think that they're not as bad as what everyone is making them out to be. Now, I want to throw this out there. I got this question over the weekend, and I got these questions a few times. Did the Reds fans overreact to the slow start of the season? I got that one. That one kind of caught my attention. I think it's sports. We overreact to everything. We overreact to when our team wins, and we overreact to when our team loses. I always think there's some kind of middle ground there, and the middle ground is what we're witnessing right now from this Reds team. I don't think they're a legitimate playoff contender, but I also don't think that they're basement dwellers either. The second question I got thrown my way is that if the team continues playing at this pace and make it interesting and are in the playoff hunt by the time we get to September, will ownership look better perception-wise than they did back in late April? Here's why I think ownership will look worse. Let's say if the Reds do make it interesting and they miss the playoffs, if they're within 4 games of a playoff appearance, whether it be the division or the wild card, and it's a stretch here, folks, but hear me out. They're on a stretch of baseball right now that you didn't anticipate a month ago, so it's not like it's that unheard of. They're within 10 of the wild card, and we're only closing out the month of May. There's still a ton of time, and with the way Reds are pitching and getting more pitching pieces back and getting more help along the way as far as depth in the lineup's concerned, you never know. The NL Central's not that great, and the National League is not that deep to begin with. I think there's there's more of a shot than you think. But here's the problem. If the Reds miss the playoffs within a 4-game stretch, we're going to say, well, hell, that season was at least a little more entertaining considering how slow it started. But does that let the ownership off the hook? Can the ownership look at the Reds fans and us as Reds media and say, see, you guys overreacted. We did put a contender out on the field. We did put a winner out on the field. Are we all going to sit back and say we were wrong? Now, this is similar to a topic we did last week, but I'm looking at it from a different perspective because here's the deal. If the Reds miss the playoffs by a 4-game stretch, by about 4 games, that makes the ownership look worse. That actually magnifies how cheap of an organization they are. It actually magnifies how silly they were not to invest another season into Sonny Gray, how silly they were not to invest into Nick Castellanos to bring him back. Because if you do miss the playoffs by a 4-game window or a 5-game window, you would have to think that having guys like a Nick Castellanos and a Sonny Gray, and of course adding some key additions in the offseason, you would think that 4-game stretch would not be a stretch at all, that could potentially be a lead, whether it be in the NL Central or hell, holding down a wild card spot. So no, I do not think, in fact, if anything, I think that the better that the Reds play, they're playing better in spite of Reds ownership, okay? I think that the fact that you look at this roster, you look at this lineup, we had every right to be down on this team heading into the season. It's not going to be one of those we say, all right, Mr. Castellanis, we were wrong, you were right. You know, yourself and Nick Krall, you guys put together quite the roster here. No, because it's not quite the roster. It's a roster of a lot of guys stepping up and being professionals, which is something that ownership is not. And that, to me, is why I actually believe that the more the team wins, it almost makes them look even more foolish. Because it's going to be the games that they win that put them in position to be talked about, but the games they lose will always be on management. That'll always be on ownership. Every win that they get, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm not the biggest David Bell guy, but I think I would be very unprofessional if I didn't acknowledge the fact that he's been able to get this team to buy in and say, you know what, everyone, our fans think we're horrible. Every baseball fan out there thinks we're horrible. The media, local and national, think we're horrible. Somehow, some way, he's gotten all these cats to believe in themselves to the point to where they're going out there and playing high-level baseball, despite the fact that they don't have a whole lot of high-level guys. So I'm a big fan of what David Bell's doing, and I think in the history of this show, that might have been the first time I've ever complimented anything David Bell has done, but I do think he has done a fantastic job with this group this season thus far. Can the wheels still fall off? Absolutely. Is that going to be all on David Bell? No. But I do think that if David Bell loses with this group moving forward, you're supposed to. You aren't put in position to succeed. But if you win with this group, it's not because management or ownership or, the general manager saw something that we didn't. It's not like Nick Krall is like, I knew this roster was going to be a contender. You Reds fans just don't know what you're talking about. No. They're winning in spite of the poor roster that was constructed. They're winning because David Bell and the true professionals in that clubhouse are coming together and playing at such a high level. I respect that. I could dig that, and I know a lot of you fans can too. Cheering for the Reds doesn't necessarily mean you're cheering ownership, okay? Supporting this team that is in a 13-9 stretch right now, the 7th best record in baseball since the beginning of May, I don't think that is us letting the ownership off the hook. If anything, this team is going to miss the playoffs, and they're going to miss it by a tighter margin than what we're anticipating, and that makes ownership look worse. Because if the Reds finish dead last and have the worst record in baseball, well, you know what? The Reds ownership, they took their punches in April and May. Will die down. The attention will die down by the time we get to October because everyone's going to be focused on college football and the NFL. You know what I mean? And we'll forget about it. We don't care at that point because the season's over. Our team's been out of it since April. But if the Reds keep contending and they're right there, just nipping at the heels of the Brewers, they're nipping at the heels of the Giants and the other teams in the National League is holding down those wild card spots, we're going to be constantly reminded of, oh, this is a roster that is overachieving, that is winning despite the fact that the ownership did a poor job constructing this roster. And now we're not going to focus on the fact that they're right there in the mix of things and feeling good about it. We're going to be pissed off because maybe you should have had Nick Castellanos. Maybe you should have kept Sonny Gray. Maybe we should have kept Jesse Winker, as we talked about last week. Doesn't look good on paper right now, but I mean, maybe, as far as the morale in the clubhouse. The point is, this team is going to be within the hunt because of the job that David Bell and the professionals in that clubhouse are doing, but they're going to miss the playoffs because of the lack of professionalism of the ownership up top. That's kind of how I view this. I think two things can be true. Team's overachieving, team's playing well, team deserves its roses right now. But at the same time, I think that the better that they look, it's the worse the ownership looks. The ownership looks even more foolish because I'm watching this poor roster play at a high level over this 20-game stretch, and I'm like, man, they're doing that without anybody. They're doing that with what good players, the little good players they have on the IL. Imagine if they had actual players that were added in the offseason that actually gave a damn. Nick Castellanos and keeping Sonny Gray, just those two moves right there totally changed the whole look of this team. But I will say help is on the way. Should be getting Nick Lodolo back in the coming weeks. Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, and Mike Minor. Same thing with Jose Barrero and hopefully Jonathan India here in the coming weeks. On top of that, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. How about this? Reds at the Red Sox coming up later on tonight. 6:40 pregame coverage begins right here on 1410 Wing AM. It'll be pretty interesting along the way. I love watching the Reds and, against the Red Sox, too. I've never been to Fenway. I would love to make it to Fenway, but it's always kind of cool when you get to see the Reds play at these teams and interleague play in these unique ballparks that we're not used to seeing them play at. So we're live on Facebook real quick before we close out this part of the show. Randy Bertholf on Facebook says, it's a slap in the face to the Reds to still have them ranked dead last in the power rankings as ESPN does, being punished for April and ignoring this team in May. Randy, I'm going to break my rule here. I think ESPN power rankings are kind of silly to get kind of fired up at, but you do make a valid point. I mean, the rankings are there. They're there to engage in. They're there to talk about. I'm willing to engage in this. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think that the Reds are being held down for what they did in the month of April. But right now, if you look at those Major League Baseball power rankings, to have the Reds dead last in baseball when it took teams having to try to climb down to the ranks of the Reds or the Reds were climbing up, I think that's kind of silly. I'm not going to overreact to power rankings in the month of May heading into June by any means, but you do make a very valid point. It is kind of silly to still have them there. Randy also goes on to say, really curious to see what they do once the disabled list isn't as long as it is. Hopefully the All-Star break at the latest. Absolutely. And again, one more time, help is on the way. Nick Lodolo, Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, Mike Minor. Mike Minor as early as this Friday. Help is on the way as far as those names out of the pitching, out of the rotation and bullpen are concerned. And then hopefully Jose Barrero, Max Schrock, and Jonathan India can all make returns here sooner rather than later to help keep this train on track. That's for sure. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. We will be back in just a few moments.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear, sunny, and hot, a high near 90. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 68. And tomorrow's going to be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, a high near 86. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
The final wing is ahead of schedule.
Slater's construction company has built a solid reputation.
Yeah, foundation looks great. Let's get a team in place for analysis.
Now they need structural engineers to support their business expansion.
We should have engineers in-house. That would put us ahead of the competition.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
DQ presents the sound of an all-star summer lineup. Leading off, the promising rookie, new Oreo Dirt Pie. On deck, the fan favorite Girl Scout Thin Mints. Summer standouts, drumstick with peanuts and cotton candy. And batting cleanup, it's you. With your red spoon and 6 summer blizzard flavors, official treat of MLB. All part of the new DQ All-Star Summer Blizzard lineup. DQ? Happy tastes good.
Save big on your next lawn and garden project with the 11% off everything at Menards. Spruce up your yard this summer with help from the Garden Center at Menards. Colored mulch helps retain moisture in soil and inhibits weed growth, all while helping your landscape look its best. Available in red, brown, or black for just $197 after sale price and 11% off. Good through June 5th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
You don't get to be the league's all-time leading rusher without feeling some pain.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith knows joint pain, and he also knows the old treatments aren't the only treatments. Today, there's a natural alternative to drugs and surgery. It's biologic therapies from QC Kinetics.
I'm talking regenerative solutions that encourage your body to heal and repair itself.
Do you have pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, lower back? Want to get your life back? The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can help.
Call to learn more about this exciting natural way to deal with chronic joint pain.
Don't put it off. Call QC Kinetics. Restorative, regenerative solutions with no downtime and lasting results.
Don't let your joint pain keep you from doing the things you love. There's a new natural solution that patients are raving about.
QC Kinetics.
Make the call to QC Kinetics. Tell them Emmitt Smith sent you.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Dashboard light problems? We can help. Our free Fix Finder service can read your check engine light, ABS light, and service indicator light, and give you possible solutions, verified by licensed technicians. You'll even get detailed results sent straight to your email so you have them when you need it most. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. The free Fix Finder service, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
More details at AutoZone.com.
Hi, Tom Bodette here. Just thinking about how people all talk to cats the same way. You know, that calming voice those floofers pretend they can't hear, all cute and standoffish. It does get their motors purring, though. Let's see if it sounds like catnip to your ears when I say, pets stay free at Motel 6 in rooms that are more comfy than a box full of yarn. Do you like that, people? I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, the proud sponsor of pets, and we'll leave the laser light on for you.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
At Family Dollar, we know you want more to enjoy your summer. Delight your family with our great assortment of ice cream and frozen treats. Family Dollar, helping you do more.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Look, it's heartburn. He's gonna try and ruin our vacation.
Don't worry. I packed Prilosec OTC. One pill in the morning prevents excess acid production that can cause frequent heartburn.
Nice. Aloha, heartburn.
Block heartburn from your summer bucket list with Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Don't wait until you have heartburn to start Prilosec OTC. Kick your summer off right and look for Prilosec OTC at Walmart or Walmart.com.
Now, local businesses can get closer to every customer in their city with fast, affordable shipping. Introducing USPS Connect Local. You want speed? We deliver same or next day. You want savings? We give you supplies at a flat rate. You want less legwork? We do free pickups. Move your local business forward with the United States Postal Service. Let's connect at USPSconnect.com/local. Specific markets, restrictions apply. Same day or next day delivery expected, but not guaranteed with entry close to final destination.
Carla's retiring early next month. We're all going to have to learn to pick up the slack.
The dessert making role at Sawyer's restaurant, deserted.
Tom, if you can handle beignets.
They need a new pastry chef who can souffle like it's a piece of cake.
Come on, guys, we got a line out the door. How much longer for those croissants?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Memorial Day is finally here, so now's the perfect time to upgrade your closet for summer with shirts from Untuck It. And you're in luck because everything is 25% off during Untuck It's Memorial Day event happening now. You can save big on all your summer essentials from wrinkle-free button-downs to no-sweat polos and more just in time for warm weather. If you haven't experienced the original Untucked shirt, now's your chance to save 25% on everything at 80-plus Untuck It stores and at untuckit.com.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We open up the show talking a little Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, again, one more time to just drown you with this stat that I've just been kind of stewing over for a while, trying to figure out what my true feelings on this team are. 3-22 is what they started out the season. That's putrid. That's horrible. That's embarrassing. They are 16-31 as we currently sit here on the final day of May, heading into the month of June. But since the 3-22 start, they are 13-9, which is the 7th best record in baseball since that stretch. Now, I hate those type of stats. I hate that you could just take any day and from this point on to this point, to find that little range that you like to fit a narrative. The only reason I'm willing to do that here is because it's not as if, from that 3-22 start, that's pretty much all the entire month of May. This May has been way better than the month of April, obviously, for the Reds. Clearly something is working or something's getting through, and they've kind of been able to put that horrendous start in the past. You got to think that 3-22 start, you win of those 22 losses. If you can go back and get 5 of those, you're not over 500. You're not significantly better, but all of a sudden 5 more wins as you currently sit here at 16-31. Now we're talking about a 21-26 record. You're right there in the thick of things in the NL Central and then the wild card. And then the perception of this team isn't as bad as what it is right now. But that's why every game matters. We act like a 162 game stretch doesn't matter. It matters. That's proof right there. They win 5 of those 22 losses in the month of April. 5 of them are wins. It's a much different view of this team, and that's not even putting them over 500. That's just where we're at. But the Reds are at the Red Sox coming up later on tonight. 7:10 the first pitch, 6:40 coverage begins. And the good news for the Reds, they have Luis Castillo on the mound. They're 1-5 in their last 6 games, and honestly, they have a good stretch to keep this momentum going a little bit into the month of June. Their next 10 games, including tonight, are all against teams who have a record of 500 or below, or less than 500. I'm sorry. So the Red Sox, you got the Red Sox coming up. You got the Nationals coming up. You got a lot of games against the Pirates coming up. So the Reds are in position where they can continue to chunk away at this deficit. 10 games, they're back in the wild card, which I'm not necessarily talking playoffs at the moment, but just to give you an idea of kind of where they fall within the big scheme of things. All right, enough talking about a bad baseball team. Let's talk about a good baseball team. Late last week, I was able to enjoy myself over at Nishwitz Stadium at Wright State University, of course, where they hosted the Horizon League Baseball Championships. And fresh off of its 5th Horizon League Championship in the last 7 seasons, Wright State Baseball, they are heading back. They are heading to the NCAA tournament, but they are heading to the Blacksburg Regional. They are the 4th seed, as they just found out earlier today, and that regional will take place from June 3rd through the 6th. The Raiders learned their postseason site earlier this afternoon as a part of ESPN's live selection show. Now, Wright State's going to take on a familiar opponent. They will take on Virginia Tech, who is the 1 seed on June 3rd, this Friday night at 7 p.m. in their opening game of the regional. And then, of course, joining Wright State and Virginia Tech in that 14 regional bracket, the 2 seed Gonzaga and the 3 seed Columbia. So the good thing about this is, and we're going to have Alex Sogard, who's the head coach for Wright State. He's going to join us on tomorrow's show. But they've played Virginia Tech already. Now, they lost the series to Virginia Tech, but they were able to get a win in there as well. They are 1-2 against Virginia Tech this season. So it's kind of cool, the fact that they get to play a team that they've seen already. For those of you who do follow college baseball, they had that epic game last year, against Tennessee. And Tennessee, I give them credit because I've never watched a college baseball game where I got goosebumps, and I was getting goosebumps watching a college baseball game last year. The environment and just the atmosphere at these games is unreal, and it comes through on TV. I can't imagine what it would have been like to get to be there. Wright State, unfortunately, last year lost to Tennessee in an epic collapse, if you will. I don't know if we want to call it a collapse, but again, the bases loaded. They lost on a walk-off grand slam. It wasn't the result I wanted, but I'll never forget that, the goosebumps, the hair on my arms rising up, because just the atmosphere and the way the fans just literally just blew up after that. Wasn't the team that won that I wanted, but my goodness, it was a crazy atmosphere, and Wright State has a chance to kind of redeem themselves this coming up Friday night. But 5 Horizon League titles in the last 7 years, that's one hell of a program right there, and they've done it with a revolving door of coaches, because that program is just right now on cruise control. But got to give it up to Alex Sogard and company for coming in and picking up right where previous coaches left off. Pretty neat to see that up in person this past weekend. If you're just tuning in, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Kev Nash will be joining us coming up here around the corner. We are 100 days away from the NFL season kicking off for the 2022 season, and it was interesting seeing some of the topics floating around the ESPN family of networks today. One that caught my eye, a segment that we're going to start adding to the show, is to tweet or to delete. Finding tweets that really have caught my attention throughout the day. And Dan Orlovsky tweeted out a very interesting headline that kind of caught my attention. Of course, he was talking about quarterbacks in the NFL, teams that you win with, and teams that you win with, and teams that you win because of. And how many quarterbacks out there can you put on that list of teams that you win because of, and how many quarterbacks can you put on the list of teams that you win with? We'll talk about that on the other side. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here at 1410 Wing AM.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Let's face it, you all have outdoor home projects to do. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil is here to help as the area's leading provider of processed topsoil, garden mix, animal bedding, and mulch. We cater to the professional landscaper, contractor, and the DIY homeowner. That's you. Buy in bulk, mulch, rock, topsoil, and sand. No matter the size of the project, we can help, and we deliver, often the same day. We also carry firewood, bedding, and fuel pellets. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil, just off I-70 and Route 4 in Springfield. Order online at madrivermulch.com.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Montgomery County veterans, we're here to serve you. You served your country, and now it's time we served you. You are entitled to many VA benefits, to include compensation, pension, and more. Call 937-225-4801 or online at mcvsc.org.
If you work remote, Staples has you covered.
A mid-mod desk chair to rejuvenate my ho-hum workspace.
Staples has you covered.
A place to put my papers so I can be more productive.
A storage cabinet that I can roll out of the way on weekends.
Staples has you covered with remote workspace solutions. And now get 25% off storage and filing products, chair mats, decor, and lighting with the purchase of an office chair or desk. Explore solutions for your remote workspace at Staples, the working and learning store. N72, in-store only.
It's the little moments that have the biggest impact. Every time you mentor a child or donate your time or money, you empower their future. You can help make a difference and be a hero in the eyes of a child, one simple act of encouragement at a time. Positive childhoods lead to promising futures. Help prevent child abuse and neglect in your community. Learn more at octf.ohio.gov.
At McAfee, they're more than just an air temperature company. They're an air quality company. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Hi, this is Alpha Media's Senior VP and GM, Brett Bayshore. I'm sure you would agree blue diamonds and four-leaf clovers are hard to come by. Well, so is this rare opening for a digital sales specialist. We're expanding our digital team, and we're looking for a dynamic problem solver. If you have a passion for targeted display, SEO, SEM, social to mobile, or OTT, call me at 937-519-0111. That's 937-519-0111. Alpha Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you.
At Rob's, you can find all the ice-cold refreshments you'll need. Craft, imported, local, and seasonal beers, fine wines, snacks, and ice. Plus, Rob's has apparel. Rob's has it all. For last-minute items, you can call, walk in, or drive through. Stop in and stock up today. Rob's Beer Barn on Indian Ripple Road at Darst, just a mile east of the Green. Rob's Beer Barn, just look for the beaver.
Want to see the recipe for the perfect meal? Just stop by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken for great food on the go with a chicken breast combo for only $5.99. You'll get our classic Famous Recipe chicken breast that's fresh, never frozen. It's honey dipped, hand breaded, and pressure cooked, then served up with a regular side, a fluffy biscuit, and a drink. This is why our chicken is famous. Get the combo that can't be beat with a chicken breast combo for only $5.99. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Kinner back with you here on 1410 Wing AM. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Spent a lot of time talking a little Reds to open up the show today, and we'll continue to jump into some Reds talk coming up here throughout the afternoon, and we'll kind of go at your pace as well. Because we are live on Facebook, head to Facebook, search the Justin Kinner Show. That's where you can watch the show and let your opinions be heard. In fact, Scott Campbell chimed in following our Reds talk and discussion a little bit ago. He says that the Reds have to go 30-15 between now and the All-Star break to be at 500. And although that is a true statement, Scott, I agree with you that that's the case. I mean, you can't dispute that's. I mean, yeah, obviously they go 30-15 the rest of the way. They're going to be at 500. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think this team is equipped to go on these consistent long win streaks. I think they're built right now. I mean, to go 13-9 over their last 22 games, I think is kind of who they are. They're going to win a few, lose a few. They're going to go on a lot of, peaks and valleys. It's going to be a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Now you could say that that's baseball in general. I mean, I think that's going to be more so the case. I think this team is built to be just under a 500 ball club. And I don't mean the rest of the way moving forward. I just mean if the season was to start fresh today, this is a ball club that is going to, that they're going to finish right around that 75 to 80 win mark. I don't think it's a team that's going to win 90 plus games or win a division or win the wild card outright, like without any questions asked. But this team, they were good enough to make it interesting. And that's what was so disappointing to pile on the disappointing start was, hey, the ownership made it very miserable to start the season. The lack of moves or the moves that were just very underwhelming made it very tough to get into the season. And then you have that horrid start that was beyond just a bad ball club starting out rough. That was putrid bad. To go 3-22 to start. So there was a lot of things that just worked against the Reds. I don't think they're that bad, but I also don't think that they're good enough to go 30-15 to get to 500 before the All-Star break. But I think that they're going to be good enough in the big scheme of things to be in the conversation. All right, 100 days. We are officially 100 days from the NFL season. We're officially 100 days from the NFL season kicking off, which I can't wait because right now we're at the point now where free agency's come and gone. We know what our teams did. We know that the Bengals attacked the offensive line and made that a priority finally, right? We know that that's the case. We know who they drafted. The draft is officially come and gone. The schedule release, that's officially come out. And we know when they'll play and who they'll play. And we've given our projections on what we think everything's going to look like. It's going to be interesting, big picture, how all that plays out. But now it's just that kind of downtime a little bit. And it's interesting because it's really the NFL just knows how to keep, front and mind awareness the entire time. The season's been done for a few months, but I feel like the season never ends with the NFL. But to look at it 100 days, it sounds like, we're only 100 days from the kickoff to the 2022 season. That's 3 months. It's a little over 3 months. Obviously, there's voluntary mini camps going on right now, and there's guys like myself who are just trying to bleed any content out of those situations. Who's showing up? Who's not showing up? Are they out because of injury? Are they out because of contract disputes? Is there tension behind the scenes we're not aware of? Those are the everyday dabblings that we're taking part in just to kind of get through this little lull, right? That's where we're at. So Dan Orlovsky pushed something out earlier today on social media that caught my attention, and it really got me thinking. And I know a lot of you out there would agree that when I pull this up, you're going to look at it and agree with some and disagree with others. But that's the fun part about this time of year. It's all about list content, right? And just trying to decipher what's good and what's bad. Well, Dan Orlovsky, we know a segment that Kevin and I are going to start doing moving forward is going to be tweet it or delete it. Should you tweet it or should you delete it? Do you leave it up or do you delete that thing and get it off there with? But so Dan Orlovsky had a very interesting take about how to decipher which quarterback you need to really marry long-term. How much rope should you give your quarterback as far as how many times are you going to do this every season? Well, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. We see that in the NBA way too much, right? I feel like we've seen the Philadelphia 76ers do it more than any other team. Let's see what we got. How many years did it take to finally move on from Ben Simmons? How many years of Joel Embiid now? And it seems like he wants out of Philadelphia. Let's keep rolling it out there. Let's keep rolling it out there. Let's keep rolling it out there. And eventually it's like you kind of knew what you had from the beginning. You should have trusted your instinct. It's kind of like what the NFL does. Sometimes teams stay married to a quarterback too long, like the Browns with Baker Mayfield, even though I don't think they waited too long. I think they ended that prematurely. But when you have a chance to get a top 5 quarterback, you pull the trigger on that. So Dan Orlovsky put out a list. He tweeted out a list earlier today Talking about QBs that you win games with in the NFL. There's quarterbacks that you win games because of, and then there's quarterbacks that you win games just with. They're on the roster. Mac Jones. Did Mac Jones truly lead the Patriots to the playoffs last year? Or did he do just enough to not be in the way to allow the real talent around him to do what they do best, to do what they needed to do to get there? Patriots played really good football last year, one of the top defensive teams in the league. They did just enough offensively to win games, but I don't think anybody looks at the Patriots with Mac Jones the way that you looked at the Patriots with Tom Brady. Now, that's a tough hurdle to overcome in 1 year in the league. Mac Jones did his thing. He's technically a Pro Bowl quarterback. But, man, Mac Jones, this is a good example of that's a quarterback that you win with. You move on to the next on the list, Tua Tagovailoa. That's a quarterback that you win with. You know, you look at the Miami Dolphins and the way that roster was constructed. Does anyone feel at any point, and although there was a lot of drama going on, do you feel at any point that Tua Tagovailoa was willing Miami to wins? And there wasn't a lot of wins, but there was enough there to make them an interesting headline. Was Tua ever willing Miami to wins? I don't think he's been in the league long enough to get a true grasp of that yet. Only 2 years in the league and, you know, battling injuries along the way and recovering from a major one coming out of college. But I don't know if I would put Tua on this list. I would have put him on the not enough information list. I would have taken him off this. I don't think that we don't know that you could even win with him. You know, this, at least with Mac Jones, we saw the Patriots get to the playoffs. We haven't seen the Dolphins get to the playoffs with Tua Tagovailoa. So until I see that, I can't say that you could win with Tua Tagovailoa. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tua, you know, you were winning with him, but you didn't win enough to get to the playoffs. So I'm going to take Tua off of this. I don't think there's enough evidence there to support putting him on one or the other. Baker Mayfield's a quarterback you could definitely win with. I will never say he's a quarterback that's going to will you to victories, but I definitely think that he has every tool imaginable that if you are a contending team or a non-contending team and need a quarterback to make you a contending team, he's that guy. Now, you're probably saying, well, then why isn't he in Cleveland anymore? We watched him do it in Cleveland. 0-16, win 7 games the next year, responsible for all those, responsible for getting them to the playoffs and winning their very first playoff game in over 30 years, to do it at Pittsburgh on the road. I mean, come on, like Baker Mayfield, you can win with Baker Mayfield. If Cleveland, a dysfunctional organization, can win with what we deem to be a dysfunctional quarterback, if Cleveland can win in the playoffs with Baker Mayfield, a highly functioning, mature organization can definitely win with Baker Mayfield. I definitely think he deserves to be on this list. Ryan Tannehill has proven that you can win with Ryan Tannehill. I think that eventually, though, you're going to reach a point where there's a ceiling. And I think we saw that ceiling last year in the playoffs in the divisional round against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Titans defense sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. Your defense was an absolute monster that night, and your quarterback wasn't good enough to get you a win. I think that's a huge, huge red flag when it comes to Ryan Tannehill. I wouldn't have him ranked as that high on my list as far as QBs you can win with, but he's proven you can win with him. Matt Ryan's a quarterback that I really, really like, actually. I think that, you know, that's an interesting name to have on here. Clearly, you could win with him. I think that when he's had the weapons around him, he's a guy that can lead you to, you know, be that guy that you win because of. But let's be clear. He hasn't had that much help, but because he's had those collapses, he has had help, don't get me wrong, but when he's had help, he was winning an MVP. He was in the Super Bowl. When he hasn't had help and when he's had guys out with injuries and the defense got worse and the team started to deplete after he got paid, he just wasn't the guy to take him that next level. I don't have a problem with there. Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, I agree with. Jameis Winston, I'm not sure. I don't like Jameis Winston being on this list. Take Jameis Winston off this list. Take Kyler Murray off this list. Jameis Winston, let's be clear. The Bucs were a non-playoff team with Jameis Winston as their quarterback. They bring in Tom Brady, a guy that you win because of, and all of a sudden they win a Super Bowl. Jameis Winston goes to the Saints last year, was playing good football, and may have finished the season at a high level. We don't know that yet. But for me, what has Jameis Winston won? He hasn't won a division. He hasn't won an MVP. He hasn't won a playoff game, much less get to the playoffs. Jameis Winston should not be on this list. And Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray right now, I mean, obviously you're winning with him. I guess Kyler Murray can stay for the time being, I guess. But, man, he has to find a way to get it done in the playoffs. Jameis Winston can't win in the playoffs, hasn't got to the playoffs. He needs to be off. Kirk Cousins at least has a playoff win under his belt. Same thing with Dak Prescott. Matt Ryan's been to a Super Bowl, whatever. Baker Mayfield has a playoff win. but get Tua Tagovailoa off this list and get Jameis Winston off this list. If you haven't even been in the playoffs, how can you be on a list as far as a QB that you could win games with in the NFL? Clearly, you can't win enough to get to the playoffs. Take Tua off, take Kyler Murray off, and Jimmy G, I think he's the face of QBs that you could win with. I don't think that Jimmy G leads you anywhere, but I do think that there's something about what he does as far as not making the killer mistake to lose you games. There's a reason that every time he's on the field, his team's a contender. When he's off the field, the Niners are drafting high. That's a key right there. To me, Jimmy G definitely deserves to be on that list. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Tweet it or delete it. Dan Orlovsky gave out his list of quarterbacks that you can win with versus QBs that you win because of. We just took a look at the QBs that you win with. How about the list of quarterbacks that Dan Orlovsky has of QBs that you win because of? You know, Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks that I do find interesting on this list because he plays at such a high level. But are we sure that teams win because of Josh Allen? Are we sure that, I mean, I would like to say so, yes. I think he's a better quarterback than Joe Burrow, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, results matter, right? The results have to matter. They've won at a high level, don't get me wrong, but like some of these QBs I find interesting because when not everything's perfect, can you still win? Josh Allen has had to have everything be perfect. He had to have one of the top defenses last year. He had to have a very buttoned-up offensive line. They finally got him help in the run game. He has Stephon Diggs. I don't know if there's enough to say that you win games because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen's winning games because you have pieces around him. When those pieces start to fall off because of roster constraints, because of contractual restraints, can he keep going? I don't know yet. I'm not going to take him off this list, but I do have my questions as far as that's concerned. Joe Burrow, I'm going to say yes, he definitely deserves to be on this list. Look, the Bengals had no business being in the damn Super Bowl, being in the playoff hunt, and yet here they were. And it's because of his ability to get guys to believe and get, you know, the franchise and the fans and everybody to believe. He has this aura about him. He has this look about him. And when he has this look about him as, you know, being upright and out on the field, that's about as good a look as any in the NFL. Joe Burrow definitely deserves to be on the list. Patrick Mahomes, no doubt. Derek Carr, no. Again, Derek Carr is he the reason? I mean, can you drop Derek Carr on any team in the NFL and they just become night and day better? That's kind of my criteria for this too. QBs that you win games because of in the NFL. I don't think that's Derek Carr. How could Dan Orlovsky put Derek Carr on this list? All right, Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert, by the way. I think he's a more skilled quarterback than Joe Burrow, but some of those intangibles that Joe Burrow has, Justin doesn't. In fact, Justin's played on two better quality overall teams than Joe Burrow has the first 2 years, but I think Joe Burrow has got more out of his roster than Justin Herbert has out of his. I would get Justin Herbert off this list. I would definitely take Derek Carr off this list. But you go down this list, I have no problem with Matthew Stafford, no doubt. The Rams were just a very good team for years. You drop Matthew Stafford in there, instant Super Bowl. Good for him. Tom Brady, we've seen it. Instant Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, kind of interesting. Best quarterback in the NFL from a skill perspective, but my goodness, there just seems to be something about playoff time that dude cannot get over the hump. I find it interesting that he's on this list from my criteria for it, but there it is for Dan Orlovsky. I don't think anyone's going to argue that Aaron Rodgers shouldn't be there, but I could understand those who would be willing to make an argument that he shouldn't. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, no problem there. Justin Herbert, I'm going to pass for now. Derek Carr, I'm going to pass for now. I have to get those two off there. I have no clue how you can look at Derek Carr and say that that's a quarterback that you drop on any roster and they are just significantly better. That's not the case. That's not the case. 518-1410, 518-1410. Do you agree or disagree? Which quarterbacks would you move around on these lists? Which would you add? Which would you take away? I am curious people's thoughts on that list from Dan Orlovsky. Again, tweet it or delete it. QBs you win with versus QBs you win because of. The QBs that you win with, according to Dan Orlovsky, you could win games with Mac Jones. It's proven it. Made the playoffs. He's a Pro Bowler. No one thought that Mac Jones led them to the playoffs, but they can make the playoffs with him. Cool. I would take Tua off this list. I would take, going down this list, I would take Jameis Winston off this list. How can you say that you can win games? I mean, to me, the definition of win games means win enough games to at least be in the playoffs. You ain't doing that with Jameis Winston. You're not doing that with Tua Tagovailoa. And until you do that, I can't keep them on this list. I think that they need to be off. Everyone else, not a bad option as far as the rest of them go. And then the QBs that you win games because of, Josh Allen, I can get down with that. Joe Burrow, I think that's a no-brainer. All right, Lamar Jackson, an interesting one. but he can't deny it. They're in the hunt for the division every year. They're in the playoffs every year when healthy, by the way. I have no problem with Lamar being on that list. Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to go into that one. Derek Carr has no business being on this list. To me, I think when you talk about QBs that you win games because of, that you should be able to take that QB off of their current roster, drop them on any roster around the league, and they instantly become significantly better. If I take Josh Allen and put him on the Lions become significantly better. If I take Josh Allen or Joe Burrow and I drop them on the Jaguars, they become significantly better. I don't think if you take Derek Carr and drop him on the Lions, I don't think if you take Derek Carr, okay, and drop him on the Jets, that they're significantly better. So I have no clue how you can put Derek Carr on that list, and I like Derek Carr. When Kev gets in, I'm definitely going to pick his mind on that too. But to me, any of these quarterbacks, if you take them off their current roster, drop them on another one, they instantly become night and day better. You can't say that about Derek Carr. You just can't. You could say that about Josh Allen now. You could say that about Joe Burrow because it's obvious. He just did it. You could say that about Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, and we're going to see that from both of them this coming up season. Russell Wilson, of course, with the Broncos, and then, of course, Deshaun with the Cleveland Browns. Aaron Rodgers, no doubt in my mind. You take him off the Packers roster and drop him on some of the worst rosters in the NFL, they're significantly better. So that's why, to me, you can't have Derek Carr on that damn list. And there you go. Tweet it or delete it. Right here on 1410 Wing AM. We have our station identification coming up around the corner. We'll take our first pause of the action coming up here to start things off in hour number 2. And then we'll get to your phone calls and your Facebook reaction. Agree or disagree with Dan Orlovsky's list of QBs you could win with versus win because of. We'll get to that to lead things off in hour number 2. We'll be right back.
Hi, Tom Bodette here. Have you ever noticed how people talk in that same weird voice to their dogs? Just like this? Well, it sure gets a dog's tail wagging. Wondering if I can get your ears all perked up the same way when I tell you that pet stay free in Motel 6 with a clean, comfortable room and a great low rate. Now, who's a good human? I think you are. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, the proud sponsor of pets, and we'll leave the light on for you. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
5X480, Dayton B100 V-Belt, one of the many parts Grainger carries. It's also the item that helped Rob carry the day. The job was on hold, deadline fast approaching, but a quick search on Grainger.com and Rob found his part. On the same day pickup at his local branch, he and his crew got the job done, safely and on time. Get supplies and solutions for every industry with real-time product availability. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear, sunny, and hot, a high near 90. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 68. And tomorrow's going to be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, a high near 86. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Perfect air with a personal touch. Get up to $1,000 in rebates on a new Linux system or make no payments for 6 months when you finance a new Linux system for as little as $132 a month. Call William Brockman & Sons Heating and Air Conditioning at 937-222-8638 today to learn more, or visit online at DaytonHeatingandCooling.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. License number, Ohio license number 14911.
Veterans, were you exposed to harmful burn pit smoke while serving overseas? The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized and is providing benefits to veterans who suffer with asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis as a result of burn pit exposure. If you served in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Syria, or Djibouti and suffer from any respiratory illnesses that you believe is a result of exposure to burn pits, contact the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Let's face it, you all have outdoor home projects to do. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil is here to help as the area's leading provider of processed topsoil, garden mix, animal bedding, and mulch. We cater to the professional landscaper, contractor, and the DIY homeowner. That's you. Buy in bulk, mulch, rock, topsoil, and sand. No matter the size of the project, we can help, and we deliver, often the same day. We also carry firewood, bedding, and fuel pellets. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil, just off I-70 and Route 4 in Springfield. Order online at madrivermulch.com.
TrackPhone wants to know, are you an influencer, a big live streamer? No? And guess what? You don't need an endless data plan. Get just the right amount of data with TrackPhone's new $40 unlimited talk and text smartphone plan. Now with 8 gigs of high-speed data and unlimited carryover on America's largest, most dependable network, now with 5G. Get the data you need at the price you want. TrackPhone Wireless. Now you're in control. Available at major retailers. 5G compatible device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at trackphone.com.
You don't get to be the league's all-time leading rusher without feeling some pain.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith knows joint pain, and he also knows the old treatments aren't the only treatments. Today, there's a natural alternative to drugs and surgery. It's biologic therapies from QC Kinetics.
I'm talking regenerative solutions that encourage your body to heal and repair itself.
Do you have pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, lower back? Want to get your life back? The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can help.
Call to learn more about this exciting natural way to deal with chronic joint pain.
Don't put it off. Call QC Kinetics. Restorative regenerative solutions with no downtime and lasting results.
Don't let your joint pain keep you from doing the things you love. There's a new natural solution that patients are raving about.
QC Kinetics.
Make the call to QC Kinetics. Tell them Emmitt Smith sent you.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
Do you or any of your family members, neighbors, or friends own a property that you just want to be done with it? If so, call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you to take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. Call 614-470-2000. That's 614-470-2000.
Do you know what people see when they Google you? Search engines don't always get it right. And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. That's 800-401-6681.
Alex Scott was a 4-year-old cancer patient who wanted to help find a cure for kids' cancer with a lemonade stand. Join Firebird's Woodfire Grill for Lemonade Days, June 10th through 12th. Donate to Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation.
College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byers Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Carla's retiring early next month. We're all going to have to learn to pick up a slack.
The dessert making role at Sawyer's restaurant, deserted.
Tom, if you can handle beignets.
They need a new pastry chef who can souffle like it's a piece of cake.
Come on, guys, we got a line out the door. How much longer for those croissants?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Whether you're working in an office or remote, Staples has your tech.
New AirPods so I can turn up the music and tune out distractions.
Staples has your tech.
A Wi-Fi extender for faster downloads? A portable keyboard so I can work from anywhere.
Staples has you covered with tech solutions and accessories, from the latest laptops to networking solutions. And now, Apple AirPods Pro are just $189. You save $60. The latest tech solutions are at Staples, the working and learning store. N64 in-store only, limit 2 while supplies last.
I'm Justin Kinner, hanging out with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. First of all, we talk a lot of NFL mock drafts, of course, heading up to the NFL draft whenever that time comes each and every year, of course. And I always find it fascinating just how much NFL draft talk can consume a lot of content, especially for days and weeks and months at a time. NBA drafts coverage really doesn't do a whole lot for me, and I'm sure a lot of you out there. But I did find this mock draft, the first one that ESPN did release today, just because it does impact the Cleveland Cavaliers and has a little bit of a local Buckeye feel. But Jonathan Givony, who we have on usually every year around the NBA draft time, especially had him on during that stretch where we were talking a lot of Obi Toppin and where he could have ended up in the draft, back in 20. But in his first mock draft released for the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers getting Malachi Branham, the shooting guard from Ohio State. Now, I bring that up because I find that fascinating. The Cavs have one of the best young cores of talent in the National Basketball Association, and you had a very versatile scoring threat like him who can also shoot the three, shot-making prowess off the dribble, of course. I think he shoots close to 44% as far as that's concerned, 43% with his feet set. I think he brings a lot of intangibles to a young Cavs roster that I think he can come right in, not have to be the guy, but be one of the guys. That'd be pretty cool. Other NBA news, of course, the NBA Finals is officially set. It's the finals that I wanted. I know Kev wanted, and I'm sure a lot of you wanted out there. The one that's most intriguing, anytime you have a team that's been to more NBA Finals than any other franchise, and the Boston Celtics going head-to-head with, of course, going head-to-head with the Golden State Warriors, who is the latest dynasty, of my lifetime, of course. And you look at that, and it's kind of been one of those slow drips, if you will, for the Golden State Warriors. They started out as that young up-and-coming team with the core of Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And now, of course, you added that element of dropping in Kevin Durant for that stretch where they become a very hated team because of how good they were. And now they're a little bit more likable post-Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was kind of the villain that everyone kind of spewed a lot of their dislike towards. He's gone. Now they're kind of back to being that lovable, likable team again, because they're an organization that, if there is such thing as the right way, they do it the right way. Homegrown players, right? Like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and then you look at Poole and some of these other kids. To watch what they've been able to do is just to replace the role players and to be able to replace the outside core to fill in and rise up to get them back to the finals. It's just one of those things where the Golden State Warriors, despite some of you out there who may dislike them, that's a feel-good story right there. It does show that, hey, you don't need to do the I'm taking my talents to South Beach routine to get a championship. You don't have to be a team that has to go out and create these super teams to do it. Now, the Warriors are the most fascinating because they did it the good old-fashioned way, winning a title before KD. Then they did it the new way where they added KD and created a super team. And now they're doing it again post KD without a super team, doing it with, yes, the original core that was Steph, Klay, and Draymond Green. But it's not the same Klay Thompson that you had before. Draymond's not as dynamic as what he was before. This speaks volumes about a lot of the young players they have on that roster. And Steph Curry, probably one of the best versions of himself right now from just a legacy standpoint, the way he's perceived around the league, and pursuing his first NBA Finals MVP of his career. He has 3 titles. They win this year. This will be his 4th title. And honestly, I don't see how they win this title without him being the Finals MVP. If he is not the best player on the floor for the Warriors during this stretch, I don't see how they do win this championship. So I love it. I love the fact that you also have the Boston Celtics, who are very similar, a homegrown team. They've dropped in some key free agents over the years to try to be able to capture that magic a little bit. Kyrie Irving, of course, not able to get that done, but to be able to get here with Jaylen Brown, to get here, of course, with Tatum, and to do it with Marcus Smart, and then, of course, to just be able to do it with the young core of guys and to get to this point, I think this is a very intriguing NBA Finals. But I do know that NBA talk doesn't really necessarily heavily move the needle in this market for when we don't have an NBA team, so I completely get that. But I am curious how much of an interest in this NBA Finals is out there for our listeners, because, again, we try to localize it as much as possible. But, man, it is very tough to localize the NBA right now because there's no players from around here on either of these rosters. There's no coaching elements that you could tie in here. There's no team that we're emotionally invested into outside of the Cavs, if even that we could try to spin things locally into. But there was one thing I heard today, to me, LeBron James is just one of those, yes, because he's from Ohio, but that's a name that we would follow religiously, especially when he was on the Cavs. His time through the NBA playoffs, it's a hot button issue no matter what. Anytime you bring up his name, very polarizing, as you guys know. But I look at the situation here that's kind of brewing outside of the NBA Finals and the talks of the fact that, okay, the Lakers trying to get off of that Russell Westbrook contract, and the one way that they'd be able to do that is to trade it for another bad contract. And the two teams that are very similarly built off of age veteran superstars that have older rosters that are locked into very bad contracts, basically just trying to hit reset. The Nets know they can't win a title constructed as is. The Lakers know they can't win the title constructed as is. So the Lakers know they can't win it constructed as is, and the Nets know it too. And so they're kind of looking at, well, we don't have many options, but the one option we have is, well, let's swap one bad contract for another bad contract. Kyrie Irving and LeBron James have already proven they could win an NBA championship together. They've already done it. They did it in Cleveland. And they could possibly do it again in Los Angeles if the Nets, it sounds like Rob Pelinka with the Lakers met with the owner and GM, of course, for the Nets recently, and that is something that could potentially be on the table, just to swap one bad contract with Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving. Both teams, it is a gamble, but it's a gamble to stay for, really, it's a win-win / lose-lose no matter what happens, right? You're going to lose no matter what if you keep your rosters constructed as is, and there's not a whole lot of flexibility for either roster because of all the money that's invested on both sides. And the only thing you could do is potentially win by doing this. You'll lose if you stay the same. You at least have a chance to win if you switch these guys out and at least give a fresh feel. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, I think, make more sense playing side by side. I know we've seen it in the past, but I think they make more sense playing side by side if they're both willing to invest into it one more time. And the same thing for Kyrie and LeBron. Kyrie and LeBron have proven that they can win an NBA championship together. In fact, Kyrie Irving just recently came out a few weeks ago and said that it was immature on his end to depart Cleveland, to think that he was too good to play alongside LeBron James. Maybe that was a cry for help. Maybe that he knew what he was doing by putting that out there, trying to lure his agents and the people on their side to kind of meet to talk about this. I would find that very intriguing and very interesting. And I think that's even something here locally that would catch people's attention if LeBron James was back in the title conversation. Because the one thing about LeBron James is that when you're talking LeBron James and winning NBA championships, not everyone's pulling for him, but everyone's willing to talk about him. And LeBron James is the most polarizing figure in sports. I think you mentioned that dude's name, and right away it generates a reaction. It generates hatred sometimes. It generates a lot of people who don't like him because of his political takes and the way he spouts off on social media. And then there's others that like him for exactly that. And then there's others that actually, love the fact that he's arguably the best, if not the second best player of all time in the National Basketball Association. Everyone has a hard opinion on that one way or the other. But I do think that when LeBron James is in the title conversation, that's a good thing for the National Basketball Association. This is one hell of a finals. You have the Golden State Warriors, you have the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics, a legendary franchise, of course, that they're no stranger to the NBA Finals. And then you have the Golden State Warriors, who, for me growing up as a kid, they had fans who put bags over their heads at games. They were not a good franchise growing up. But for me in my adult life, this is one of the premier franchises in the NBA. This is going to be, for you kids growing up, 10 years from now, you're going to look at and say, oh yeah, that Warriors franchise, that's like the standard. That's the gold standard for what a franchise should look like in today's NBA. And that's definitely the case. You look at the coach from the top down, from Steve Kerr to the face of the franchise and Steph Curry. They constructed all that internally. That's what's fascinating about them. But no LeBron James. It just seems like something's missing. That's the problem that I have with the NBA Finals. Not really a problem, but that's the problem that I think exists within the National Basketball Association. We say we don't like LeBron. We don't want LeBron anymore. We want new teams to be in the conversation. But there seems to be something missing. You have Tatum against Steph Curry. You have the Celtics against the Warriors. You have two of the hardest competing teams in the NBA today going head to head, but it still feels like something's missing. And that's what I find most fascinating about the LeBron talk of, we're over LeBron. We don't need LeBron. We don't like LeBron. I think the NBA needs LeBron in the NBA Finals, which is why I hope they can find a way to get a Kyrie deal done and find a way to make that work in LA, because LA versus the Celtics is a much more intriguing finals matchup, despite me being a big Steph Curry fan at the end of the day. Justin Smith on Facebook says, I want to see Horford get one. He says, go Celtics. Al Horford's another one that wasn't really a homegrown guy. Of course, he came over from the Hawks, but he was one of those guys that they brought over initially in the youth movement of this Celtics team, of course, that really brought that toughness and provided that edge. Horford definitely is one of those glue guys that does deserve it. Randy on Facebook says, I wouldn't call myself a basketball fan necessarily, but if a game is on, I'll absolutely watch it simply as a sports fan. It's a really fun game to watch, and I'll always root for the underdog, though I'm not sure who the underdog is in this finals. That's a very good point, too. I think right now, because we're familiar with the Warriors, we're familiar with Steph Curry, they have all that experience. I would think that the Celtics are the underdogs, but when you look at who they are defensively and the fact that this isn't as easy as last time or hard as last time, when they were in the finals last time, you had to worry about Kevin Durant. You couldn't just, you had to pick your poison. Now it's not necessarily picking your poison. It's all about containing Steph and just hoping that Clay and some of the other guys don't get hot. It's easier said than done, of course. Adam on Facebook says LeBron should be willing to do work with anyone in the quest of winning a title. I don't see how that's saying otherwise. This isn't a LeBron decision. Adam, what do you mean by that? LeBron should be willing to do work with anyone in the quest of winning a title. I think he's willing to do the work with anyone, but I think also reality has to kick in that sometimes it just doesn't work. There's only so much a player can do. To sit here and act like if you drop Michael Jordan in his prime on this Lakers roster that it would work, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Putting Michael Jordan on this roster doesn't make Anthony Davis healthy. Putting Michael Jordan on this Lakers roster doesn't all of a sudden make Russell Westbrook a shooter, right? Or an elite scorer, right? So that's what I mean by that. Like when people like to put the blame on LeBron and say that LeBron's why this Lakers roster didn't work out necessarily. Now you're also saying that he constructed the roster. Well, that's fine. But if you're going to hold LeBron's legacy against him for constructing a bad Lakers roster, then if that's the case, then Michael Jordan is no longer in the conversation of top 5 greatest players of all time. If we're going to use the skill set of constructing rosters in the conversation of MJ versus LeBron, then if you want to include that, then I'm sorry, but MJ is way worse at constructing rosters than LeBron James. Michael Jordan can't construct a damn playoff roster. LeBron James at least constructs rosters that go to the finals every damn year, it seems. So, yeah, if you want to include that in there, that's fine. I'm not saying you did, Adam, but people bring that up all the time. That LeBron should be penalized in the GOAT conversation because of the fact that he's responsible for the rosters that he constructs. Well, that doesn't make any damn sense because let's be clear. If MJ was given the power, by the way, keep that in mind. If Michael Jordan was given the power that LeBron James has as far as constructing a roster is concerned, Phil Jackson never would have been the coach of the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s. If you remember, Michael Jordan loved Collins. He didn't want to move on from Doug Collins. He didn't want the Bulls to fire him. He was happy. He was scoring. He was the lead. He was the guy, and he was still the guy in Phil's offense. Don't get me wrong. But good for MJ for buying in. But my point is that good for the Bulls. The Bulls just had more guts to tell MJ, hey, we're going to do our job. You do yours. And good for MJ for buying in. But today's athletes, that's just not how they're wired, unfortunately. They want it their way. I still hold that against LeBron from time to time, but I don't think that should factor into the GOAT debate, if you will. But that's not what I'm here for, is to get into the GOAT debate as far as I'm concerned. But yes, Adam, when you say LeBron should be willing to do work with anyone in the quest of winning a title, I think that he is. And I don't think he has a choice. But I do know that the Lakers don't have any choice right now. Their roster is tapped from a financial standpoint. Their only option that they have is to be able to unload a contract, which would have to be trading one bad contract, which is Russell Westbrook, for another bad contract. And I think that makes sense for Kyrie Irving. A star for a star, a guy that's proven that he can win. I mean, Russell Westbrook and KD have been to a finals before. Kyrie Irving and LeBron have been to many finals before and have won an NBA championship before. I think it's a win-win. I think it's the last-ditch effort for both sides because Kyrie and KD is not working with the Nets. From a personality standpoint, it's just not working. Get Kyrie and LeBron back together in LA. Swap Westbrook over to the Nets. At least you have guys that may not love playing together, but they've proven that despite the lack of love playing together, they can get it done. They can get to a championship. They've done it in the past. It's kind of their only option. But I do know this. I love this finals matchup. I love the Celtics. I love the Warriors. But no LeBron. It seems like there's something missing. It seems like there's something missing. If this was the Golden State Warriors against the Nets, it's just missing that elite star power. Jayson Tatum, statistically, top 5 player in the NBA. But when you look at Jayson Tatum, do you feel like you're watching, like if you were able to watch like Iverson and Kobe meet up in the finals? You remember when those two met up in the final? You felt like you were watching two dominant stars go at it. I don't get that vibe, even though statistically there are two dominant stars going at it. I don't feel that way with this. Tatum has always fascinated me by that. He has the numbers that make him look the part until you watch him and you're like, it just doesn't look the part. I don't get it. But he has a chance to be able to win a title and do it against a dynasty in the Golden State Warriors, and it's a big series for the Boston Celtics for that very reason. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 Wing AM. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
For a beautiful look that protects and stays clean, choose Dutch Boy Paint from Menards. Now all 11% off. Get quality products with smart technology like mildew-resistant coating, stain shield, and dirt-resistant paint and primer in the award-winning Dutch Boy Twist and Pour containers. Get 11% off everything, including the full line of Dutch Boy paints, now at Menards. Good through June 5th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
It's the perfect season to power your passions during Dell's summer sale event. Save up to $250 on the very latest Dell XPS computers and Alienware systems, all powered by Intel Core processors. You'll also find great savings on Dell monitors, docks, and other popular accessories. Special limited quantity deals start each weekday at 10 a.m. through May 31st. Plus, enjoy free shipping on everything. Just call 800-BUY-DELL for summer sale event savings. That's 800-BUY-DELL.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. Looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Hey, I'm Ariana. A little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Spicy Southwest salad is when I take a bite, it's like, wow, I'm getting a punch from the roasted corn. I'm getting a kick from the spicy chicken. It's just great.
Hi, this is Tori. A little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Cobb salad is the avocado lime dressing. It adds to the chicken, the bacon, and the roasted corn. It takes the salad to a whole nother level.
Order a salad for delivery on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get access. Well, not anymore, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide with deals like our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month and no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for $249, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
New message.
Hey, man, it's Devin. You know, from that time you accidentally emailed me because you thought I was a different Devin. Oh, and your email signature said confidential. If you receive this in error, please delete. That's so you. Anyway, I heard you bought a boat. When are we setting sail, Captain?
When you get a boat, you also get new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them. And get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Oh, and no, you did not receive this message in error.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
It's so sticky.
At Hannah's Organic Honey, business may be sweet, but they need an e-commerce queen bee to lead the hive.
Okay, these jars are going to Jakarta. Oh, wait a minute. Does that say Jackson?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by interviewing on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Tom Bodette here. Have you ever noticed how people talk in that same weird voice to their dogs? Just like this? Well, it sure gets a dog's tail wagging. Wondering if I can get your ears all perked up the same way when I tell you that pets stay free at Motel 6. With a clean, comfortable room and a great low rate. Now, who's a good human? I think you are. Tom Bodette for Motel 6, the proud sponsor of pets. And we'll leave the light on. For you. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Introducing Tim Hortons new avocado toast. Creamy avocado spread on sourdough toast with everything bagel seasoning. New avocado toast now at Tim Hortons at select U.S. restaurants. Limited time only.
On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
The SEC meetings today, of course, a lot of headlines surrounding those, mainly because of the fact that for the first time since the big media spat, if you will, between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, well, for the first time since that, of course, that big public outburst from a week and a half ago, the two guys have to sit in the same room and they have to address a lot of the same issues that led to the media spat, if you will. Amongst many other things, the SEC getting together, the powers that be, all the coaches, all in the same room, all gathering around. And that's, I mean, you look at that SEC room. I'll be one to say this. Like, I know we get very protective of our teams, especially Buckeye fans. Like, we like to talk up the Big Ten and say it's as significant as the SEC and stuff. And I know that if Keith Byers would listen to me say this, he would probably drive all the way here and strangle me. But I'm just not one to buy into the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten are equal. I think that the SEC and the Big Ten are equal from a financial standpoint. In fact, you can actually give the Big Ten the advantage from a financial standpoint. I mean, the money that they generate and that they bring in is on par with what the SEC does. And yes, money is the thing that matters most, but perception matters too. In fact, I would argue that everyone out there that thinks that the SEC is a better business than the Big Ten, I would have to argue that the Big Ten is actually doing more with less. The Big Ten is doing more with less. Now, you could talk about how respectable a lot of the Big Ten programs are. That I won't deny. But if you want to talk about brands, there's no way that you're going to convince me that Penn State and that Wisconsin and Rutgers and these other teams in the Big Ten, that they have brands that equal or surpass the brands that are in the SEC. That doesn't exist. The SEC is a soap opera all within itself. If you put the Big Ten coaches meetings and you've aired those, okay. If there was a big meeting like there is today for the SEC, if there was just a big hall that had every Big Ten coach there and had Kevin Warren leading the meeting and what have you, and they put that on national television, it would generate a rating, but it wouldn't generate an SEC rating. From the coaching characters, if you will, from the personalities, from the rivalries, from the hatred of the fans to the I mean, if you look at Lane Kiffin, Nick Saban, Leach, now Brian Kelly, Jimbo Fisher, I mean, you look up and down that, I mean, that is a who's who of dominant coaches and just characters in general. The SEC is just more interesting. They say it just means more because I think it does as a whole. The one thing that Buckeye fans need to understand is that just because I say that the SEC is better than the Big Ten, at no point am I saying that the SEC is better than Ohio State. Sometimes we get defensive over things we don't need to get defensive of. The Big Ten is not the SEC. But to be fair, there's not a whole lot of conference, not a whole lot. There isn't any conference that is the SEC other than the SEC itself. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that no one's talking about the Big Ten kind of separating itself and creating its own Big Ten national championship. In fact, if there was anyone out there that actually thought that the Big Ten should branch off and have a Big Ten national championship, we would laugh. They're going to have Northwestern and Ohio State in the Big Ten title game every year. Or we have to wait once every 6 years for when Wisconsin decides they want to put a national contender out on the field. You want to wait every 2 years for Penn State to put out a top 5 ranked team just to choke in every big damn game that they play in. Like, let's stop with that. The Big Ten is not the SEC. We would laugh and mock the Big Ten if there was rumors of a Big Ten national championship. But the SEC is over here saying, we know our brand is bigger and better and stronger than everyone else combined in college football. In fact, I think that the SEC, if you just left the SEC as is and you go to these other conferences, okay, and by the way, the SEC now with Texas and now with Oklahoma, okay, very interesting. But if you created a second super conference, if you will, that would feature Ohio State and would feature Clemson being the 1 and 2, I still don't think it holds a light to the SEC. So that's not a shot at Ohio State. But the SEC has so much help from the top down, from the caliber of the programs to just the personalities of the coaches. Now, you're probably saying, well, all that matters is wins and losses on the field. Yes, advantage SEC as well. So that's what I find the most fascinating about all of this, is that in the big scheme of things, to sit back and watch all of the drama that is unfolding coming out of the SEC, not even media days, but just these meetings that are going on, it's fascinating to me. For instance, anything that an SEC coach says, it's a headline. It's a headline. You know, if Purdue's coach, if Brom comes out and says, our goal this year is to beat Ohio State, no one cares because it's laughable. They know you can't do it. right? And if you do it, and I know we're coming off of a few years ago of them doing it, but like when we talk about beating Ohio State, we're not talking about upsetting Ohio State. We're talking about overtaking Ohio State as the Giants within the Big Ten. We know that can never happen. But when a guy like Brian Kelly, who just gets to LSU, a program that, as I talked about with Kev the other day, there's only one program that has won more national championships. There's only one program that has won more national championships in the last 22 years than LSU, and that's Alabama. The LSU has the second most national championships in the last 22 years. That's a program that has shown that they're inconsistent in being able to sustain dominance, but they have shown that, well, they just snap their fingers and get it right. They can win multiple. They've won 3 national championships the last 22 years. No one else is coming close to that. It's LSU and it's Alabama. And everyone else has sprinkled their 1 or 2 win. LSU is a legitimate program, right? Like that's a program that if they can find a way to sustain any kind of success, they're right up there with Alabama. So Brian Kelly does a podcast on the Varsity House podcast, and the headline right away just starts taking over social media. Brian Kelly's on a mission. A simple, lame comment that is common sense. Any coach should say this, by the way. As I said earlier, if Brom and Purdue come out and say they want to beat Ohio State, it's maybe a headline on the Purdue student newspaper, right? Like they care about it. Oh, man, Purdue's serious about beating Ohio State this year. That's cute. It's adorable. Enjoy your student media newspaper, whatever. But it's not going to get national headlines. But you know what? Brian Kelly, he says one simple little line on a simple little podcast, and it's all over the damn place. I want to beat Nick Saban. Brian Kelly doesn't want to beat Alabama. He wants to beat Nick Saban. That's headline news. You bring up Nick Saban's name, you go at Nick Saban, you're now headline news. Brian Kelly knows what the hell he's doing. That wasn't a confrontational statement, by the way. That's smart. You should want to beat Nick Saban. Everyone does. But Brian Kelly watched what happened with Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, and he said, look, I'm not trying to get into a peeing match, if you will, with Nick Saban, but I do know that if you drop Nick Saban's name, if you are putting out to the media that you are going after Nick Saban, guess what? That's going to generate headlines. I love Ryan Day, but I don't care if it's Brom or Harbaugh or anyone else. Any of those coaches can come out and say, I want to beat Ryan Day. It's not generating headlines. But when you say you want to beat Nick Saban, that's going to generate a headline. And when you are the ilk of Brian Kelly, the success he had at Notre Dame and now taking over at LSU, and LSU, who has the second most national championships in college football over the last 22 years, only one having more titles, and that's Alabama, that's a headline. So when Brian Kelly comes out and says, I want to beat Nick Saban, that was one of the big driving factors in him taking the LSU job and joining the SEC. That has everybody talking now. That's all everyone's talking about today, of course, and saying how foolish it is that Brian Kelly thinks that he's going to go and beat Nick Saban. Why is it? You know, Jimbo Fisher left a national championship program in Florida State to go take the Texas A&M job a few seasons ago. Everybody laughed. They thought it was silly. When he said his job was to go and, that his goal was to go to the SEC and put Texas A&M on the map, we laughed. We scoffed at that. We thought he was full of it. Well, whether it's because of NIL, whether it's because of illegal activity, or whether it's because it's all just the wild, wild west now, the bottom line is Jimbo Fisher don't sound so crazy anymore now, does he? Number one recruiting class for this, number one recruiting class. Made big-time headlines, a WrestleMania feud, if there ever was one, between college coaches and him against Nick Saban. I mean, my goodness, Jimbo Fisher has put Texas A&M on the map, and we're going to sit here and mock Brian Kelly, who takes over a program that has 3 national championships in the last 22 years, the second most of all college football teams out there, and we're going to mock Brian Kelly because he said, I want to beat Nick Saban. That was one of the biggest driving factors in his decision to take the LSU job. Good for Brian Kelly. He should want that. By the way, every coach in the SEC wants that. Every coach in the Big Ten wants to beat Ryan Day. Every coach in the ACC wants to beat Dabo Swinney. But if Miami comes out and they say, we want to beat Dabo Swinney, it's not a headline. All right, if Purdue comes out, or Rutgers, or Wisconsin, or James Franklin at Penn State, they come, I want to beat Ryan Day. Okay, that's super. That's swell. That's not a headline. But Brian Kelly says it at LSU, it's a headline. And I find it fascinating that you would think that you would like to go to these other conferences where it'd be maybe a little bit easier. Brian Kelly, I actually give a ton of credit to. He's going to go to the SEC where he has to play Texas, where he has to play Oklahoma, where he has to play Florida, where he has to play Auburn, where he has to play Alabama, where he has to play Georgia, Texas A&M. He's going to the SEC. He bolted from Notre Dame to go to coach at LSU to play those guys because he thought that, hey, you know what? At Notre Dame, we could have won a national championship. We can go undefeated. We can put these great schedules together. I can get to the college football playoff, but we're going to get obliterated by 40 every time that we go, which is what happened. So you would think that Brian Kelly, if he wanted to take the easy way out, if he wanted to be a Kevin Durant and just go join an already stacked program situation that's just basically plug and repeat, right? He didn't do that. He went to the SEC. He could have gone to any major program out there. He could have gone to an easier conference. He could have gone to the Big Ten and been the second best coach in the Big Ten and rivaled Brian Day every year in the Ohio State Buckeyes. If all you had to do is get through the Buckeyes once a year versus having to get through Florida and Auburn and Texas and Oklahoma and Alabama and Georgia and Texas A&M. I don't know why we hate on Brian Kelly so much, but good for him for coming out publicly and saying, you know what? I went to the SEC because I wanted to be challenged. I went to the SEC because I wanted to beat Nick Saban. But yet we poo-poo all over that. I don't get it. We get so mad in today's era of sports at how soft people are. But then people like Brian Kelly prove that they want to go do something that's the tough route, and we still poo-poo all over everything he wants to do. That's what I find most fascinating about who we are as people when it comes to this. You know, Kevin Durant, he goes to a Warriors team, and he took the easy way out. He doesn't want to compete, even though he does want to compete. You know why? Because we tell these NBA players that for you to be in the GOAT conversation, you have to have championships, not just one or two. You have to have 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Like to even be in the conversation of one of the best of all time, you have to basically fill up a whole hand of championships. Kevin Durant knew that. He had given 9 years to the NBA, 9 years to the Oklahoma City Thunder before he bailed for the Warriors job. And he went to one finals. They lost that finals. He had won one MVP, but he knew that, hey, I could spend another 4 years here. I can get to 12, 13 years of OKC career, win another couple MVPs, get bounced in the Western Conference Finals or lose in the NBA Finals. And I'll never be in the best of all time conversation. Or I can go to the Warriors, rack up some titles, and at least, have enough on my hand to put me in that conversation if my career continues to progress at this point. We tell these guys championships matter. We tell them that if you don't win these championships, you're a nobody. So you would think that Brian Kelly would have said, you know what? I'm going to go the easier route. I'm going to go to the ACC. I'm going to go take a Florida State job. I'm going to go take a Miami Hurricanes job. I'm going to go take a program that if I could just flip that switch the way I did at Notre Dame, the way I did at Cincinnati, if I can go flip that switch in an easier conference, I'm going to be in the ACC title game every year, the Big Ten title game every year. I'm going to be in the, whatever, it's a Big 12 title game every. He went to the SEC. So why do we rip a guy that actually is challenging himself? I'm just laughing. I bring this up because every comment, every post in response to him saying that I'm going to the SEC to beat Nick Saban, everyone's mocking him for it. They're laughing at him for it, and I don't understand it. The guy at least is saying he's going to go up and be the biggest competitor out there. He's going to go up against the number one team in the country from a perception standpoint, from a results standpoint. Texas A&M, that's cute and adorable. You have the number one recruiting class. You did it one time. Can you do it 2? Can you do it 3? Can you win a national title with it? Texas A&M, you haven't proven anything yet. This is step 1. But Brian Kelly's like, he didn't go to the SEC to beat Jimbo and Texas A&M. He's going for Nick Saban and Alabama, and I don't blame him one bit. But yeah, the perception is that the Big Ten is right up there with the SEC. The truth is nobody is. No conferences. Sankey knows that. The SEC knows that. And deep down, Buckeye fans, we all know it too. But the one thing we all need to understand is saying that the SEC is significantly better than the Big Ten is not admitting defeat as far as who the Buckeyes are. Even the SEC knows that Ohio State's an SEC caliber program lifting up what is a very weak Big Ten. 518-1410. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash when we come back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Are you starting to question your gambling or the actions of someone you love?
It may be time to talk to someone who understands.
Call the Problem Gambling Helpline today and talk to a trained specialist.
There's no judgment and no commitment.
Plus, it's completely free and confidential.
We're here for you. You are not alone.
And remember,
we all have the power to change with the Problem Gambling Helpline of Ohio.
Make the call today.
Call the Problem Gambling Helpline of Ohio at 1-800-589-9966.
Spring is here, the grass is starting to grow, and you need to mow now with 0% for 42 months retail financing on new Hustler zero-turn mowers. That's right, qualified buyers can enjoy 0% for 42 months on qualifying Hustler zero-turn mowers. Come in to Small Engine Service Pros today and get that Hustler Turf zero-turn lawnmower you've been dreaming of. Qualified buyers with minimum purchase. Other restrictions apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Small Engine Service Pros, 2030 North Dayton Lakeview Road, Route 235 in New Carlisle.
If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt, then listen up. We can reduce or eliminate your interest rates. Cut your monthly payment up to 50% and stop all late fees. Our company has been helping good people just like you get out of debt for over 30 years. Don't get stressed out. If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt and medical bills, we can show you a way to reduce all of your bills to one lower monthly payment that you can afford. So again, if you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt and medical bills you can't afford, make this free call today and learn how you can finally get out of debt. Call now for your free consultation. 800-643-8577. 800-643-8577. 800-643-8577. That's 800-643-8577. Sponsored by Credit Guard.
Well, Jayson, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
There's just one place where students are students first, and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports offer more than the joy of competition. Studies show that student athletes in Ohio are also likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in other areas of their lives, including academics. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hey, it's Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN. Football has played a big part in my life, but football's also a lot more than just big plays, wins, losses, and championships. Football teaches young people about dedication, sacrifice, teamwork, and overcoming adversity. So let's respect the game and get out and support your local school. You'll be amazed of all the good things you see happening at Ohio schools.
This message brought to you by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the OHSAA Radio Network.
Many Vietnam War veterans were unknowingly exposed to dangerous chemicals impacting their health and quality of life. There are now expanded benefits for veterans exposed to Agent Orange. Veterans with Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, or hypothyroidism who previously applied for VA disability compensation but were denied should reapply and might be eligible for retroactive compensation. Exposed veterans who have not yet applied should consider filing a new claim. For assistance, call Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Wendy's Biggie Bag is just $5. Get your choice of a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink, all for $5. U.S. price of participation may vary.
Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
And welcome back. I'm Justin Kinner, hanging out with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Ron Howard on Facebook says, you were talking about Jameis Winston earlier. It's been noted that he has been seen with a noticeable limp. Could this be a landing spot for Baker Mayfield? In fact, earlier today, I had Colin Cowherd's show on in the background, and that was one thing that he was alluding to as far as a potential destination spot for Baker Mayfield, especially after the ACL repair and everything else that went on with Jameis Winston and why he missed pretty much all, good chunk, 75% of last season. The thing that's interesting is that, he comes back and, the Saints bring him back, and there's a much different look too. As you're 2 removed from Drew Brees. Now there's no more Sean Payton. This team is trying to figure out, what their identity is. Moving forward. And it's an organization that honestly has a lot of very good pieces, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They have very good weapons on the offensive side of the ball. When you look at the fact that they do have Alvin Kamara, when you look at the fact that they do have Michael Thomas, they just signed Jarvis Landry, and then you drafted Chris Olave. I mean, Dayton Flyers, Adam Troutman, the tight end. I mean, right now he's listed as their number 1 tight end. I mean, it could be a Taysom Hill, Adam Troutman type package at tight end as far as that's concerned. But my goodness, the weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball, pretty damn good for New Orleans. And then, of course, we know what they have on the defensive side of the ball. But no, Ron, you bring up a good point. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that every time a situation pops up that say that's where Baker's going to end up. But it does make a lot of sense as to why he could end up there. I would feel bad for Jarvis Landry, who obviously was trying to flee the scene of the crime when it does come to Baker Mayfield. But, if Baker Mayfield ends up heading to New Orleans. Because keep in mind, the way this roster is constructed, this isn't a roster that is constructed to give Jameis Winston time to figure it out. It's constructed to win and win now. The Saints know the window to win is now, and they feel that when Jameis Winston's healthy, okay, that's a guy that can give them definitely a formidable look. We saw it last year. He was starting to play at a high level. In fact, they were in playoff contention. They were in the contention to win that division. I mean, that's how good they were playing with him, but it was just a limited amount of games, and it wasn't enough of a sample size to say that, okay, that Jameis Winston, that's the guy that can lead us the rest of the way. That's he's totally erased all of his bad habits from seasons past. Keep in mind, the last time he was a full-time starter in the league, it was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a season in which he threw 30-plus touchdowns. It was a season in which he threw for 4,000-plus yards, but he also threw 33 interceptions. So it's not as if you just flip a switch and you no longer turn the ball over anymore. That same self-destruct button does exist within Jameis somewhere, and I think that's the concern. If they were able to get a full season out of Jameis to show that he's kind of put some of those issues behind him, that's one thing. But, they have Andy Dalton as the backup quarterback on this roster. Obviously, Jameis maybe not coming back from this injury as clean as what people had anticipated and were hoping for. But, yes, if you send Baker Mayfield over to the NFC, which is what I've been saying makes the most sense to me, you send him to the NFC, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. And people get mad at me when I say that, but it's true. If you want me to maybe move him back 1, he's a top 6 quarterback in the NFC. But if you put Baker Mayfield, a healthy Baker Mayfield on that New Orleans Saints roster, if Baker Mayfield has just as good, a very, very good offensive line in New Orleans, okay, just as good a run game. You have Alvin Kamara, who's very versatile, kind of getting that same dynamic feel that they had with Kareem Hunt. Let's be clear. One of the few weapons that Baker had a very good chemistry with over the last 2 years in Cleveland was Kareem Hunt, and Alvin Kamara is Kareem Hunt on steroids. So if Baker Mayfield has Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry, and let's be clear, Baker had a very good chemistry, at least on-field chemistry, not last season, but up until last season, he had very good on-field chemistry with the Jarvis Landry. But if you have a Michael Thomas and you have a Jarvis Landry and they just drafted Chris Olave, Baker Mayfield would have every weapon imaginable. In fact, there's a good chance that Baker Mayfield, if this is the case, does end up in New Orleans. It's kind of ironic how he can come out really smelling good when it's all said and done, especially in the AFC with as stacked as it is and with the big suspensions looming for Deshaun Watson. Could it be that Baker Mayfield could end up in New Orleans and end up in a situation where he's in the playoffs before the Browns are, experiencing success and wins in the playoffs before the Browns are? Wouldn't karma come back and haunt the party that was at fault more than the other? And don't you think that Baker Mayfield would be set up for success just as much as what the Browns are with Deshaun Watson? But we'll find out which side karma really dislikes. But I like that. Ron, do I think that's where he ends up? I don't know. Cleveland is going to have to eat some of that contract, and New Orleans doesn't have a lot of cap space to absorb a big chunk of that. But if they're just looking to move on from Baker and get him off that roster and put that, chapter behind them, this is a situation that's a win-win. And I don't know, Andrew Berry, I don't know in regards to what their goal is as far as really trying to make sure they do right by Baker to send him to a position that, he can succeed in. I think they got to do what's best for them. But this is a situation where what's best for them is just to move on from Baker altogether and get something in return. And it's a win-win for Baker because now he could end up with a contender. So people are sending me notes already. I'm mad that I said that. Keith Tolliver says that the Saints don't need Baker. Keith, please explain how they don't need Baker Mayfield. All right. You had a ACL injury to Jameis Winston a season ago. Jameis Winston, even when healthy, not really 1,000,000% sure who the hell Jameis Winston is, because the last time he was healthy for a full season, he threw 33 interceptions. You think that that's gone? And by the way, Sean Payton's not here to mentor or to at least iron out some of those kinks that he had in his game. He's gone. Like that I don't have faith in that. Baker Mayfield, he's proven he can lead a team to the playoffs. He's proven he can win in the playoffs when healthy. He's proven he can not turn the ball over, which is something that the Saints need. The guy that won't turn the ball over. Baker, when healthy, he won't turn the ball over. So explain, Keith, what do you mean by the Saints don't need Baker Mayfield? Jameis, when healthy, is still a big question mark, and Jameis isn't healthy. There's reports stemming all over the place that New Orleans is starting to panic because Jameis, after signing him to that one-year deal again, he's not healthy. He's not recovering that well or as smoothly as what they had anticipated coming off that ACL injury from a season ago, an ACL injury which knocked him out for 75% of the season. So don't tell me that they don't need Baker Mayfield. You don't need a quarterback that's capable of coming in and feeding the top talent you have around him and leading your team to the playoffs? You mean to tell me that the Saints want Andy Dalton over Baker Mayfield? Come on, Keith. This is you're being a typical Bengals fan, and your hatred for anything that's Browns related because you've hated Baker for the last couple of seasons because he's owned your team. Now you're going to say silly things like, "Oh, the Saints, they don't need Baker Mayfield." You're damn right they need Baker Mayfield. Because if not, you got a big question mark in Jameis Winston, and if he's not the option, you got Andy Dalton. You mean to tell me with the roster that is constructed of Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, that you want Andy Dalton riding that bus? No, you don't. I'll take my chances with Baker Mayfield every single day of the week. And when healthy, he's a difference maker, a big-time difference maker. And I don't understand why that's so hard to comprehend. So someone got mad because I said he'd be a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. He would be. If he gets traded to the NFC, he'll be a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, at least top 6 if you want me to be a little bit more fair here. I've gone through this many times before. I don't mind doing it again. This was sent in through a private message. I don't know why you're watching. I could see that you're watching the show, but you send it in through a private message. But let's go through this exercise, shall we? If Baker Mayfield was a quarterback in the NFC East, he'd be the second best quarterback in the NFC East behind Dak Prescott. If he was the quarterback in the NFC North, he'd be the second best quarterback in the NFC North behind Aaron Rodgers. So that puts him at the third best quarterback in the NFC so far. Let's move on to the NFC South. If Baker Mayfield was the quarterback in the NFC South, he'd be better than Carolina's option. He'd be better than Atlanta's option. He'd be the second best quarterback in the NFC South behind Tom Brady. So guess what? That puts him at fourth so far on my list. And then you look at the NFC West. He's better than what Seattle has. He's better than what San Francisco has. Not better than what the Rams have, obviously, so that puts him at fifth. And is he better than Kyler Murray? That might be up for debate. They both have their flaws, but if you want me to be unbiased here, fine. I'll put Kyler Murray above Baker Mayfield if he goes to the NFC. So he's the sixth best quarterback there. And the only QBs that are better than him are Aaron Rodgers, an all-time great, Tom Brady, an all-time great, Matthew Stafford, who just won a Super Bowl, and Kyler Murray, who I think we're just going to put him ahead of him to keep some of y'all happy before you lose your minds, even though I just gave, who else? It is what it is. Baker Mayfield to the Saints makes all the sense in the world, and I think that'd be a huge win for him. Keith Tolliver says Dalton or Hill could hold it down. Says who? Why are you being that delusional to the point that you think Andy Dalton is a better option for the Saints than Baker Mayfield? Based on what? And Taysom Hill is not even a quarterback. He's not even a quarterback. Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. Baker won't have Peyton. No money for Baker. Correction, Grasshopper. I'm a Browns fan. It don't matter. Then you're hating on Baker Mayfield. You're just being a hater. You know, everyone loved Baker Mayfield when he was there, and then you get Deshaun Watson and act like Baker did nothing for you. Baker's going to go to New Orleans and probably make the playoffs and win in the playoffs before the Browns do with all this mess that's going on with Deshaun Watson right now. See, I've been defending Browns fans for years, and you guys come out and say silly things like that. NFC is weak, can still make playoffs with Dalton. You're not making the playoffs with Andy Dalton at quarterback in New Orleans. You're not. Andy Dalton is not going to get the job done in New Orleans. Like, can we stop with that? In fact, Browns fans, Bengals fans, we've all done nothing but bash Andy Dalton for the last 2 years, but your hatred for Baker Mayfield has now put you in a position that you're trying to convince me and everybody else that Andy Dalton's a better option for the Saints than Baker Mayfield. Can we stop it? That doesn't make any sense. Andy Dalton had a chance with the Dallas Cowboys, who had CeeDee Lamb, who had Amari Cooper, who obviously had Ezekiel Elliott, who had 2,000-yard running backs. I mean, Andy Dalton had his chance with the Cowboys. It didn't work there. Top offensive line, top run game, weapons all over the place. Andy Dalton couldn't win in Dallas. He went to the Bears. Not a whole lot of options or weapons there, but his numbers really weren't that much more different than when he was in Dallas. So we've seen that he sucks with weapons now at this point in his career, and he's no good without weapons. So, I mean, Andy, stop it. Stop it. NFC is weak and still make the playoffs with Andy Dalton. So you'd rather barely make the playoffs in a weak NFC than to get Baker Mayfield and actually be a contender to win the NFC. I'm just saying, I think that's kind of silly. So you want to bring Andy Dalton to a Tom Brady fight. Baker Mayfield's not better than Tom Brady, but I'll take my chances with Baker Mayfield against Tom Brady in that NFC than I would Andy Dalton. I might have to switch. I'm going to have to find a new NFL team if Browns fans are going to start poo-pooing on Baker Mayfield at this point, because that's ridiculous. 518-1410. Step away for a few moments. We'll pick up with this on the other side. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station. We'll be back in just a few moments.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear, sunny, and hot, a high near 90. Tonight's going to be mostly clear, a low near 68. And tomorrow's going to be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, a high near 86. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Rob's Beer Barn is stocked with the newest summer seasonal beers and refreshments. That means Rob's Beer Barn has you covered for all your Memorial Day needs. At Rob's, you can find all the ice-cold refreshments you'll need. Craft, imported, local, and seasonal beers, fine wines, snacks, and ice. Plus, Rob's has apparel. Rob's has it all. For last-minute items, you can call, walk in, or drive through. Stop in and stock up today. Rob's Beer Barn on Indian Ripple Road at Darst, just a mile east of the Green. Rob's Beer Barn, just look for the beaver.
Whether you're working in an office or remote, Staples has your tech.
New AirPods so I can turn up the music and tune out distractions.
Staples has your tech.
A Wi-Fi extender for faster downloads. A portable keyboard so I can work from anywhere.
Staples has you covered with tech solutions and accessories, from the latest laptops to networking solutions. And now, Apple AirPods Pro are just $189. You save $60. The latest tech solutions are at Staples, the working and learning store. N64 in-store only, limit 2 while supplies last.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
This is Terry Crews, and that is the sweet, sweet sound of a live audience. That's right. AGT is back with the electricity of a big crowd, with the most incredible acts yet. Plus, your favorite judges, Simon, Howie, Heidi, and Sophia, and $1 million
JT is back, followed by the premiere of Dancing with Myself, tonight on NBC.
And we are back. I'm Justin Kinner, 1410 WING. We are Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We're also Dayton's home of the Cincinnati Reds. We'll talk a little Reds coming up around the corner. The Reds on the road tonight at the Red Sox interleague play, and pretty excited to watch the Reds play at Fenway Park tonight. Of course, for those of you who can't watch the game, you can always listen to the game on 1410 Wing AM. I love interleague play, although just because you put like a cute little nickname on something and put some kind of marketing slogan on something like calling it interleague play, can we stop with calling it interleague play? Can we just get to the point to where we just do what's right, and that is every team should play every damn team every single season for the benefit of the entire sport and all the fans in baseball? We'll get to that coming up around the corner. I do want to put a bow on this topic at hand here. So Ron had thrown out the question. Ron is a Buccaneers fan. Ron, one of our listeners, he's from the Tampa area. He's a big Bucs fan, because I have to put that background information there because people are always like, well, how are you a Bucs fan living in Dayton? Because apparently you're not allowed to be a fan of any team except the team that the listeners listen to, and it's just a weird thing. But Ron's a Bucs fan. I've known that for a while. He was even a fan of the Bucs before Tom Brady went there, so I always give him props for that. But he threw out there was reports from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or from the New Orleans Saints camp today, that Jameis Winston, former Bucs quarterback, who went to New Orleans last year to play for Sean Payton and was off to a very hot start at the beginning of this, about a month in, and then he tore his ACL and was out for the rest of the year. And it is what it is. There was a lot of injuries in New Orleans, so he comes back. The Saints signed him to another 1-year contract. And again, it was quite the offseason for them, because for a team that's lost Drew Brees and Sean Payton in back-to-back off seasons, you would think that this is the time to hit the reset button, right? Well, not so fast. I mean, you look at what they did in the draft and getting Chris Olave, which was one hell of a get, by the way. You had Chris Olave in the draft, and then you signed Jarvis Landry, one of the key free agent wide receivers that was available. You add him to that roster. You already have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and you play in an NFC that is very watered down right now. I mean, you look at all the moves that were made this past offseason. I mean, all the top quarterbacks, they bolted, right? I mean, yes, Tom Brady did come back to Tampa, but what's left is Jameis Winston with New Orleans, Carolina, revolving door there as they try to figure their stuff out. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, with Sam Darnold there. And then the Atlanta Falcons, they have to bring back Marcus Mariota, because they moved to Matt Ryan, now going to the AFC. All right. And then you look at the NFC West, and you look at there. Seattle has Russell Wilson. He's now in the AFC. So the NFC takes another hit, losing another top quarterback. The San Francisco 49ers thought that they had the quarterback of the future in Trey Lance, and that doesn't seem to be the case, because they still haven't moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo. So you have Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC West. And you look at the NFC North. Everyone had anticipated that Aaron Rodgers had already played his last game in Green Bay, but he ends up signing this mega contract and one of the highest paid QBs in the league, and now he's still there. But Detroit's still Detroit. The Bears are a complete disaster, and Minnesota is just going to be that 8-9 win team. They have an explosive offense, but they're nothing that anyone's really terrified of. And then you look at the NFC least. I mean, we could talk about other moves that the Eagles have made, and they've made a lot of great moves. They've stacked up on the defensive side of the ball, but nobody, and I mean nobody, fears Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen, it hurts to watch you. I mean, that's why, the Eagles, come on. No one's fearing the Eagles. I mean, the Cowboys might fear the Eagles because somebody has to win that division, but we've seen teams come out of that division, every single season. Nobody fears the Cowboys. Nobody fears Dak Prescott. Nobody fears, Daniel Jones and the Giants. Nobody fears the Washington Commanders. Nobody fears anyone in the NFC right now outside of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers in isolated situations. But from a championship standpoint, Tom Brady's in the Bucs. And then, of course, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Rams. So the NFC is prime for the taking, if you will. In fact, I think that when you look at the roster for the Saints, I actually think it's the third best roster in the NFC. You look at the Rams have the best roster in the NFC. The Bucs have the second best roster. But to me, I think that the Saints have the third best roster in the NFC, especially when you look at the offensive firepower. As I talked about, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. I mean, that's a very good offensive line. You look at the weapons they have on the defensive side of the ball, especially you have Cameron Jordan. You have a great secondary. They were able to get, Tyrann Mathieu, of course, in the offseason as well. I mean, this is a team that is set up to win now. They're not trying to rebuild. They're not trying to move on. I mean, you lose Sean Payton, you lose Drew Brees. You would think that this team is saying, forget it, we're going to hit the reset. No. In fact, they're digging their heels in deeper. So the fact that Jameis Winston today in camp, that there's heavy reports out there that his ACL, that he's not healing at the rate that they had anticipated. Luckily, it's May heading into June. Season doesn't start for another 100. Technically, the week one's not for another 100 days. The season doesn't technically start for another 2 months. But he's not where they want him to be. And the Saints have to start asking themselves, okay, do we take a chance that he continues to heal up and will be ready by training camp? Or do we need to make sure that we take advantage of the fact that we're fortunate to be heading into June and there's still another viable quarterback out there that we can go get? And that guy is Baker Mayfield, a guy that, although despite his many flaws, also has a lot of strengths that help turn of all franchises around the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I know that the Cleveland Browns are a disaster. I know that the franchise is a complete joke, but you mean to tell me how bad can a guy be that can finally go to Cleveland and figure it out after decades and decades of no quarterback, no matter how experienced they were coming in? They couldn't get it done either. You brought in Jake Delhomme, who took a Panthers team to a Super Bowl. You thought you were going to get a veteran there. The Browns tried everything. They couldn't do it. Baker Mayfield comes in and finally flips that switch, and he was good enough for them to the point where they felt comfortable in investing into the team. Because you're going to sit there and say, well, Baker was only good because he had weapons. Well, Baker had weapons because he was good enough that the franchise trusted him enough to put weapons around him. Johnny Manziel, it's not like when the Browns got him that they said, okay, now we got to dump a ton of money into both sides of the ball because we got a winner here. No. The Browns had been waiting for a guy that they felt comfortable enough to just go all in on both sides of the ball, and that was Baker. If they thought Baker was a bum like you all did, they would not have invested on the defensive side of the ball. They would not have gone out and traded for OBJ. They would not have gone out and got Austin Hooper. They would not have gone out and got, in Kareem Hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't do that if you feel you don't have a guy that you can win with. But the Browns did that because they bought in. So to sit there and try to paint Baker as this just bum quarterback, as Sam Darnold, if you will, like, give me a break. And what up, Kev? Yeah. Oh, my bad. Yeah, you were just doing a pass by. Kev's here to save the day.
Hey. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's Tuesday. I mean, the NBA Finals matchup is set.
Oh, but I'm back in my bag of tricks. Is Baker Mayfield?
I knew it. I knew you're going to be talking Baker Mayfield. Oh, my goodness. What's up with Baker? Any news come out about young Mayfield?
No. Are you going to hang for a few?
I got some stuff to do.
You're in the chair. You're going to give me a few. So the camera's on. You just hear me. So, Ron, I was going to bring this up. I talked NBA a little bit ago. You'd be proud of me. Ron brought it up that out of Saints camp today, there's a lot of concerns because Jameis Winston is still limping and he's not healing at the pace that everyone had anticipated. And now you look at the Saints roster and you look at the weapons that they have. This is a team that lost Drew Brees to, previous offseason. They lose Sean Payton this most recent offseason. You would think that means to blow it up, start, rebuild. We lose our legendary coach, our Hall of Fame quarterback. We won a Super Bowl. Let's restart and kind of start from the ground up. No, in fact, they have Alvin Kamara still. They still have Michael Thomas. In fact, they drafted Chris Olave and they signed Jarvis Landry in the offseason. That doesn't sound, and then you look at Tyrann Mathieu. They invest heavily into him. I mean, they added weapons on both sides of the ball. That's not a team that's showing that, we're in it for the long haul. No, it's a win now roster.
Yeah.
And so Jameis Winston, I think they're sitting back saying, man, we can't be patient and say, well, we'll hope that he heals up. If not, we'll have him back by next season. No, this is a roster that's constructed to win now. And I think that the Saints would be really foolish to take a chance on Jameis healing up if the doctor's reports are true that it's not healing as fast as they anticipated, when there is a weapon out there that you could bring in that's still young, that has proven he can win when healthy and has won in the playoffs, won at your Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome back, by the way.
Lost twice this season,
but and a lot more to others. But the point is that, so we got to talk about that, but then Browns fans who, by the way, were with me defending Baker like it was no tomorrow over the last 2 seasons. And now Keith Tolliver on Facebook said, Saints don't need Baker Mayfield. They have Andy Dalton. Really?
They did sign good old redhead.
The Red Rocket.
Shouts out to Andy Dalton.
And Andy Dalton's a very good backup quarterback, but again, you don't invest into Tyrann Mathieu, you don't invest into Jarvis Landry, you don't invest into keeping that roster intact to rely on Andy Dalton to get it done. In the NFC, it's prime for the picking. You could sign Baker Mayfield with all those weapons and actually find yourself in the NFC title game. I don't think it's that crazy.
They beat the Buccaneers twice last year. They shut out the Buccaneers, if I'm not mistaken, in that second matchup. I see where you're going. My whole thing, and it will continue to be my thing about Baker Mayfield. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I am doing everything in my power to get released so I can control my own destiny. If I feel like if it's the Saints is going to make me a better player and make me into the playoffs and, set it up for me to sign a big contract next year, that's what I'm going to do. I have to get out of there because I don't think that the Browns or the Saints or anybody else out there is going to be willing to eat that $18 million contract that he's holding, especially with the Saints, with them having so many high price items on their team. We talked about Tyrann Mathieu. You can't forget about Cam Jordan, the defensive end. You can't forget about Lattimore, Buckeye corner. You can't forget about Alvin Kamara, who just got a contract. Michael Thomas in the middle of his big contract. They are over the cap all the time. So them adding an additional player at $18 million just as feasible, but a release player, absolutely. Baker Mayfield is the best available quarterback on the market right now. I mean, that's not saying anything crazy. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that he is. So if you're in need of a quarterback, and especially right now, if the guy that you really want to be the quarterback is still limping, I know it's only June, basically, everything like that. I don't see a problem with that, but it's just the price tag. What are you willing to pay for it? And I think the Saints are going to be like everybody else. Like, he's going to get released. I'm waiting it out. And then once he's released, then you can offer him a contract and you can make the contract better than anybody else. Or that's what you would foresee. And you have a better roster than anybody else out there that needs a quarterback, I would assume.
And look, but the thing is, the NFL, there's no such thing as costs anymore because teams find ways to make it done all the time. If this is the NBA, I'm with you. There's no way to get it done. There's no way to get it. It's the NFL. There's ways to get it done. Whether, I mean, it's picks from years from now, like the Saints are just in a win now mode. I think from a leverage standpoint, the Browns don't have any leverage, but either do the Saints at this point. You can't go into the season with Andy Dalton as your quarterback if that's the case. And maybe we're slightly overreacting to this, but this is why I said Baker will end up on a team that he's going to start for the most of the season because a quarterback's going to go down. A door will open up. Right now, there may not be any, but once you get guys out onto the field where there's actual, movement going on, dominoes start falling already. A mini opportunity here that could make sense. I mean, basically just a straight up trade. Obviously, that's not going to work or whatever, but the numbers have to make sense for both. And if the Browns have to eat some of it to make it more feasible for the Saints to take them off their hands, the Browns have 5 quarterbacks or 4 quarterbacks on their roster right now. That's also not feasible. So I think the sooner they can move on from him, the better. I know what you're saying about just a straight up release, but if the Saints are willing to send a draft pick, 1 draft pick, 2, it doesn't matter. The Saints need Baker Mayfield at this point as well. 2 weeks ago, no one needed Baker Mayfield, but if the reports of Jameis are true, that it is pretty significant. Now they need a quarterback, and I'm sorry, but Andy Dalton's not it.
And another thing about the Baker Mayfield and Brown situation, let's not forget these are people running these organizations, and people have feelings, and people have spite.
Yep.
And if the Browns feel like, all right, Baker Mayfield constantly chirping or going on a podcast and talk about situations, don't think for 1 second that they won't drag this thing out. Because like we all know, the owners are billionaires and they're spiteful as all get out, just like a player is spiteful as all get out. These are a lot of egos involved. And we've seen better players than Baker Mayfield end up in bad spots because organizations sent them to oblivion and to try to ruin their career. So like, I mean, all this is on the table. A flat out release is on the table. A trade is on the table. Wait this whole thing out is on the table. Everything's on the table with this Baker Mayfield situation because the Browns have done it before. The Browns will do it again. I mean, they did. I mean, granted, this was a different leadership group and a different Browns organization, but I mean, their best quarterback of all time, Bernie Kosar, they decided to trade him in the middle of the season. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's happened to better players than Baker Mayfield before that spiteful things have happened to. So, everything's on the table in my eyes.
And keep in mind, there's a beautiful Christmas Eve game of the Saints at the Cleveland Browns on December 24th.
You love the drama.
So
not the drama, but the drama.
The drama. But yes, that's a lot of drama, if you will. But like I said, everything right now, this is the first opportunity that's opened up that makes sense. Baker Mayfield going to New Orleans and has weapons galore again. Although I don't think big picture looking back, weapons galore. You had the offensive line, you had the tight ends, the running backs, the receivers looked better on paper than what they actually were. Was that Baker or not? But poor Jarvis. Poor Jarvis. If that
can't quit you.
If that is the case, but people keep bringing up Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill they've already announced he's no longer a quarterback. They've moved. He's part of the tight ends room. Him, Adam Troutman, former Dayton Flyer. That's going to be part of a little package there.
Oh, razzle dazzle.
We'll see what who knows? But they have a defensive-minded head coach now too, as far as the creativity is concerned. So, one of the feedbacks we get too was, well, with Baker, will they win the Super Bowl? First of all, with Andy Dalton, this is the same guy that's saying that they need to roll with Andy Dalton and not Baker Mayfield. So you mean to tell me that they win the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton? Like, we just keep moving the goalposts. Some reasons why we don't like Baker. The Browns fans have turned on Baker Mayfield. Bengals fans,
not you though.
Bengals fans have always hated on Baker Mayfield, and that's why I want him to go to the NFC, because it's a win-win. I could root for him in the NFC.
What you got the Cowboys in NFC?
I do like the Cowboys. I like Baker Mayfield though. I don't think he's as bad as everyone says.
You add a third team to the mix?
No, just Baker. It's NBA rules.
You NBA in it. I got it.
So there's that. But no.
So who in the association? Who you got winning the finals?
Right now, I mean, I'm going.
I know we're early.
State, but from a defensive standpoint, I don't know. This is the matchup I wanted. This is the matchup I wanted. And all day today, it's the typical generic topics of who needs it more, who's facing most pressure. I hate all those, but I mean they are generic questions. But at the end of the day, they make sense. The more pressure's on Boston. For one, I think they've already checked off a huge box as far as getting to the finals, because they've been trying to get to the finals with this group for what seems to be decades. But as you found out last week, Jayson Tatum's only 24 years old. I feel like this dude and LeBron are about to retire together and go. No,
he ain't even at his peak yet.
No,
that's not scary.
So Tatum's 24 years old. I feel like he's been in the league for absolutely freaking ever, and kind of he has. But at the same time, it's like this group has been knocking on the door for years. I mean, go back to when LeBron was with the Cavs years and years ago. I mean, this was the team that LeBron kept running into in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it sounded good. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals, but you could see the gap was a mile long between Tatum's Celtics and LeBron's Cavs. So, but to see them at this point close the deal, and he's one of the top 5. I mean, we can get into that later, but I mean, a top player in the league. I think it's a lot of pressure because, by the way, you're not promised to get back. Look how long it took. I mean, how many times have you been this close and haven't been able to get there? Well, Kevin Durant's in the East. All right. There's a lot of teams,
swept them.
And then you look at, Kevin Durant, though. I mean, we don't know, these players hop around all the time. You have Joel Embiid flirting with the Miami Heat. That happens. Good luck getting back to the finals anytime soon if that happens, because, that organization is just so damn top notch as far as that's concerned. So to me, I think there's a ton of pressure on Steph Curry. His legacy's set. He gets another title. He gets a finals MVP. That's going to enhance it a bit. But even if they get swept, no one's looking at Steph Curry any less than or more than what they already. Steph Curry's one of the all-time greats. I don't think anything's in it for him outside of just adding to his resume. But Tatum, he has to win this. They have to win. You're not promised to get back. Who knows? But I think there's more pressure on the Celtics than the Golden State Warriors.
I'm here for it all. Man, what a good game. And that's all you really can ask for in a Game 7. Celtics and Heat. My guy, Jimmy Butler, balled his butt off in Game 6, dropped, 47, and then balled his butt off last game and everything like that. Went for it all. Missed it. It is what it is. You miss, but they're not in that position without Jimmy Butler. But overall, the Celtics were just a better team, man. Just more guys doing more things. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that this Golden State Celtics situation, I think the Celtics are going to win. I truly do. I think defensively, they're better than Golden State. I think that Klay isn't the defensive player he used to be, obviously missing 2 years with crazy injuries and everything like that. I'm looking for Jaylen Brown to be the guy that ultimately ends up being the MVP of the finals, because Wiggins can't guard them both. Wiggins, he's their defensive stopper on the wing. Draymond's their guy in the paint and that can switch and everything like that. But when you have a guy like Horford who can hit threes too, you can't leave him. So that leaves Jaylen Brown to be guarded by Steph Curry or Jordan Poole. As Shaq would say, barbecue chicken.
So, and right now too, and just while we're here too, because I just want to see, I mean, right now, when you look at the betting lines for these and stuff, Golden State in game 1, a 3.5 point favorite. Of course, they do open up at home, but that's what's interesting about the Celtics. The Celtics aren't afraid to play on the road. In fact, they had to.
They better on the road than they are at home.
They had to win game 6 and 7 at Miami to get to this point. So going to be great finals. This is the finals I wanted, although I wanted to see a fully healthy Heat team if that was the case, but this Celtics team too, I know Marcus Smart a little banged up.
Yeah.
How significant is that injury? But again, NBA Finals game 1 this Thursday night, which you can catch right here on 1410 ESPN Radio as well. We are carrying the NBA Finals, so pretty jacked about that. But yeah, Golden State a 3.5 point favorite in game 1, and the Warriors are favored to win this series. It's not Kev Nash brings you over under yet, but over under 6 games for this
Celtics
finals.
in 6.
Celtics in 6.
Yep.
All right, you always say put something on the line. Let's bet some money. Let's bet some money.
Oh, now that you really confident you want to put something on it. Whenever I tell you put something on it, you know.
Fine, then tell me to put something on it. I'm throwing it out to you.
Okay.
You name the number.
We could do 10 push-ups per. 10 push-ups per. No, we just do a flat 50 push-ups.
Do 51 push-ups.
51
push-ups. 50.
Did you send your 5150 today?
You don't have to send a 5150.
Got that bounce back email.
It's 5149. So there you go. But yeah, 51 push-ups.
51 push-ups on the series.
And $10.
There we go.
$10 and 51 push-ups. How about that?
$11.
A whole freaking paycheck on the line for this damn game, or the series, I should say.
Series.
Warriors. I'm saying Warriors in 6.
Okay.
Warriors in 6. You say Celtics in 6, and there you go.
There it is.
All right. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. We'll be back in a few moments.
It's the little moments that have the biggest impact. Every time you mentor a child or donate your time or money, you empower their future. You can help make a difference and be a hero in the eyes of a child, one simple act of encouragement at a time. Positive childhoods lead to promising futures. Help prevent child abuse and neglect in your community. Learn more at octf.ohio.gov.
Hey, Mike, what are you doing way up on that ladder? You're going to hurt yourself.
Oh, I'm trying to unclog these gutters.
That's smart. I had water damage from my gutters last year. It cost me $10,000.
Wait, $10,000?
Yeah, and from over here, it looks like water's been pouring over your clogged gutters, and it's probably doing real damage to your foundation. You need to do what I did. Get off the ladder and call Leaf Filter.
Yeah, but I need to get these gutters flowing now.
That's why you need to call Leaf Filter. They'll clean and realign your gutters and install their exclusive micro mesh screen system so nothing gets in your gutters except water.
So Leaf Filter protects my house from damage and means no more gutter cleaning for me?
Bingo! Plus, Leaf Filter has an industry-leading lifetime warranty, so your gutters are covered for life.
Thanks, Frank. I'm calling Leaf Filter today.
Don't go another day with your home unprotected. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com right now for an extra 15% savings. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com. That's 1-844-300-LEAF.
There's no such thing as a good excuse for not buckling up. Law enforcement are writing tickets, so why take the risk? Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Let's face it, you all have outdoor home projects to do. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil is here to help as the area's leading provider of processed topsoil, garden mix, animal bedding, and mulch. We cater to the professional landscaper, contractor, and the DIY homeowner. That's you. Buy in bulk, mulch, rock, topsoil, and sand. No matter the size of the project, we can help, and we deliver, often the same day. We also carry firewood, bedding, and fuel pellets. Mad River Mulch and Topsoil, just off I-70 and Route 4 in Springfield. Order online at madrivermulch.com.
This is Doug Ute, Executive Director of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. High school coaches can be the biggest influence on kids having a positive experience in sports. Sports set the foundation for life lessons that remain long after playing days are over.
This is Gene Smith. Please join Life Sports at The Ohio State University and the Ohio High School Athletic Association as we partner with the Susan Crown Exchange on its Million Coaches Challenge. Get involved and learn more at go.osu.edu/CoachBeyond.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Are you in need of a notary?
Your Montgomery County Clerk of Court's office now offers a free online notary.
This service does require a camera.
Next time you need a notary, go to courthouse2u.com and click Online Notary to submit your request. You can get it done right in your own home or office.
Did we mention there's no cost to you?
This is a free service brought to you by Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts.
Okay, open wide. Good to see you've been flossing. What's on your chest? Oh, that's just my lentil soup. It was supposed to be here an hour ago. I'll say it's unprofessional. We should have ordered through Easy Cater. Food shows up on time as ordered. Yeah, it really burns me up too. Oh, the soup. Oh, hold my crackers. I'll go get the lead apron.
Some food just doesn't work at work, but Easy Cater just does. Food for work on time and as ordered from over 85,000 restaurants. Order 24/7 at easycater.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Welcome to AutoZone. Thinking about gas mileage? Quality oil like Mobil 1 Full Synthetic can help you get more out of every mile. Got an older vehicle? Try Mobil 1 Full Synthetic High Mileage. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $37.99. Get what you need for better fuel efficiency at any of our 6,000 stores or on AutoZone.com. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Well, Jayson, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but you grew up and things changed. Well, it's time to put it back on your list. Innovative things are happening in teaching today, and you can be a part of it.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Do you know what people see when they Google you? Search engines don't always get it right. And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. That's 800-401-6681.
Creative Foam is now hiring for production positions in Dayton, Ohio. They offer a competitive starting wage and great benefits. Visit creativefoam.com to apply and start your new career today.
Greg Rosenthal with the NFL Network released his top 10 rankings for general managers in the National Football League. He has the Cincinnati Bengals Duke Tobin in there. Like, let's be clear. I can't get down with that. The Bengals have been a great story the last couple of seasons. Joe Burrow has come onto the scene and totally just rejuvenated the city. But Duke Tobin, putting him in the top 10 rankings of general managers in the NFL is a joke. He drafted good players because he had bad rosters. You got Joe Burrow because you won 2 games. You got T. Higgins because you won 2 games. You got Jamar Chase because you could only win 4 games. So you're rewarded for a lot of bad rosters and a lot of bad play. I can't put Duke Tobin in my top 10. The real GMs thrive whenever they don't have a lot of cap space to work with and they're regularly picking later in the draft. That's where the Bengals are living now. Let's see how Duke Tobin responds to that instead of being rewarded with top draft picks for all the losing that he's done.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Hey, it's Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN. Football has played a big part in my life, but football is also a lot more than just big plays, wins, losses, and championships. Football teaches young people about dedication, sacrifice, teamwork, and overcoming adversity. So let's respect the game and get out and support your local school. You'll be amazed of all the good things you see happening at Ohio schools.
This message brought to you by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the OHSAA Radio Network.
There's just one place where students are students first, and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports offer more than the joy of competition. Studies show that student athletes in Ohio are also likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in other areas of their lives, including academics. High school, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
It's the perfect season to power your passions during Dell's summer sale event. Save up to $250 on the very latest Dell XPS computers and Alienware systems, all powered by Intel Core processors. You'll also find great savings on Dell monitors, docks, and other popular accessories. Special limited quantity deals start each weekday at 10 a.m. through May 31st. Plus, enjoy free shipping on everything. Just call 800-BUY-DELL for summer sale event savings. That's 800-BUY-DELL.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. Looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Want to generate more leads for your home improvement business? Menards offers contractors the opportunity to promote their services in our installer center. We encourage you to connect with our guests because we're your supplier, not your competitor. Contact one of our team members at any of your surrounding Menards store locations to inquire about the free program and get enrolled in our installer center today.
Save big money at Menards.
Introducing Tim Hortons' new avocado toast. Creamy avocado spread on sourdough toast with everything bagel seasoning. New avocado toast now at Tim Hortons at select U.S. restaurants. Limited time only.
Well, Jayson, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You ace vehicle history searches and test drives. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but you grew up and things changed. Well, it's time to put it back on your list. Innovative things are happening in teaching today, and you can be a part of it.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
We are Dayton's home of the Cincinnati Reds, and the Reds are back in action after an off night last night as they are on the road taking on the Boston Red Sox. You'll have the Reds and the Red Sox from Fenway Park coming up. 6:10 coverage begins, or 6:40 coverage begins. 7:10 will be first pitch. Luis Castillo taking the mound tonight for your Cincinnati Reds. And I love the fact that, of course, it's radio. I'm supposed to be urging you to listen to the game on the radio, but let's be clear. This is the type of game that there's just something nostalgic about watching any game that takes place at Fenway Park or at Yankee Stadium or at Wrigley, even though we're kind of we're just conditioned to Wrigley just being Wrigley, right? Because the Reds play at Wrigley every year for many, many games, and we get to see it often. But it's interesting when you see teams on the AL side, like if Boston or the Orioles or the Rays or whoever, when they have to come all the way to Chicago to play at Wrigley, they get those same vibes that we do when we watch the Reds have to go play at Yankee Stadium or when the Reds have to go play at Fenway Park. I think it's pretty badass. So yes, I really want you to listen to the game on the radio tonight, but at the same time, I'm going to be watching it. I want to. There's something cool about watching the Reds play at Fenway Park, watching them play at Yankee Stadium. When that happens, even when they play. And by the way, this is nationally, whatever, but it's cool watching the Reds play at Dodger Stadium. There's just some of those stadiums that there's something really unique about watching your team play there. And that's kind of what I'm feeling about tonight. I can't wait to watch the Reds play at the Red Sox coming up tonight. But it got me to thinking. And by the way, real quick, we opened up the show today talking about the Reds and the perception of the Reds, because I had this question that was thrown out to me about the Reds' success as of late, that, if the team continues to play at this pace and make it interesting, will we view ownership any different? Will we say maybe they didn't know what they were doing? Now, I know we touched on this lightly last week, but hear me out. The Cincinnati Reds started the season 3-22. The Cincinnati Reds are currently 16-31. That means since that 3-22 start, they are 13-9. That 13-9 record is actually the 7th best record in baseball in that span. Now, I'm not a big fan of those types of stats, but it does show you the night and day difference between who they are now and who they were to start the season. I can't explain necessarily what led to that 3-22 start, because all the reasons that I could explain that 3-22 start also exist right now during 13-9 injuries. I wanted to, in the back of my head, say that the 3-22 start had a lot to do with the fact that although the Reds roster isn't the sexiest, a lot of the main components that made them or gave them an identity, they're not healthy. They haven't been available. Hell, the Reds still have a ton of guys who aren't available between Nick Lodolo, Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, Mike Minor, TJ Antone out for the season after having Tommy John surgery, Jonathan India, Jose Barrero, Max Schrock, all out. But the Reds are still 13-9 in their last 22 games and turning it around after the 3-22 start. This was a season that we're like, holy crap, this team's going to lose 110, 115 games. I'm not saying that that's no longer the case, as maybe this is just a little hot stretch and that happens in a 162 game season. But I think that right now, if we're going to talk about a 3-22 start as being so putrid and so horrible and so embarrassing, if we're going to use that 25 game sample size to create a perception or create an opinion about this team, why are we going to ignore the most recent 25 game sample size, or at least at this point, a 22 game sample size? Well, it's usually you go with the most recent sample size of games to base your opinion off of who your team is. And the Reds were 3-22 the first 25 games of the season. They were the worst in baseball. They were the worst in history. This is embarrassing. I don't even want to be a Reds fan anymore. Take the team. Don't just sell the team, Bob. Just give it away. Get us out of here. Put us out of our misery. Well, now 22 games later, and we're 3 away from getting to that number, that 50th game of the season. The Reds are a night and day different team. In fact, the Reds, they don't have a lot of winning months under their belt over the last few seasons. All right. In the last 3 years, they have 2 months of winning baseball. If you look at the last 3 seasons for the Cincinnati Reds, there is only 3 months where they have had individual winning seasons. Okay. That's where we're at right now. And the Reds are now going to make it 4th. So this isn't just a this season accomplishment. This is like who the Reds have in the last 3 seasons, this being the 4th. But the last 3 seasons, the Reds, you could only go back and find 1 month where they had a month of winning baseball. 3 times, 3 months in the last 3 seasons. They're about to make it the 4th time in the last 3 and 2 months of a season. So that should show you that the Reds are playing baseball at a level that they actually don't play at, even during their better years when they had higher expectations and significantly better rosters. So I look at what the Reds team is doing right now at 16-31, tied for the worst record in baseball. But they're right now, for the month of May, have the 7th best record in baseball in the month of May. So do I think that they're the 7th best team in baseball? No. Do I think they're the worst team in baseball? Absolutely not. I think this Reds team is actually playing for the first time in a while. I could say that this Reds team is over, the right now, especially because you consider the fact how bad this roster is. I actually think they're overachieving a bit. I'm not saying that 16-31 is overachieving, but a 13-9 stretch and a win tonight would put them at 14-10 in the month of May. Folks, that's a really good accomplishment for a Reds team that over the last 3 years only has 3 total months of a winning record in baseball. So I feel good about that. That's my glass half full stat of the day, if you will. But I do feel good about the fact that while the Reds have gone 13-9 in the month of May, you look at what they've done. They've been able to take care of their own against their division. They've series wins against the Pirates, series wins against the Cubs and the Brewers. They just took 2 or 3 over the weekend from one of the top teams in baseball, and the San Francisco Giants. They just split a series with the Guardians. I know they dropped 2 or 3 to the Jays, but they had good outings offensively and all that. And then the other thing about it is you go look at the pitching numbers for the Cincinnati Reds. They're not giving up runs. And the key to success in baseball, as you know, and I know this sounds very generic-y and very duh, but the key to baseball right now is, the best teams in baseball have the best pitching staffs, and I don't think anyone looks at the Reds and fears their pitching staff, but you can't ignore what they've done over the last 22 games. They lost 6-4 this past Sunday. I completely get that, but how about the games before that? They held the Giants to 2 runs. They held the Giants to 1 run. They held the Cubs to 3 runs. They held the Blue Jays to 2 runs. The Blue Jays to 1 run. The Blue Jays to 2 runs. The Guardians to 2 runs. All right. They held the Pirates to 1 run. The Pirates to 3 runs. The Pirates to 2 runs. They shut out the Pirates. All right, like folks, like the Pirates series before that, again, the Pirates held them to 3 runs, held the Pirates to 2 runs. Folks, and by the way, that Pirates series at the beginning of May that started this run, the Reds, they're not giving up runs. During that stretch of that 13-9, they have the 3rd best ERA in baseball. That's pretty damn good. Now, there's so much more to baseball than just an ERA or just a 13-9 mark, because it's a 162-game season, and within a 25-game stretch that you think you're playing really well, within a blink of an eye, you can go 3-22 again. It very well could happen. But the fact that the Reds have been able to turn it around, and you really can't put your finger on where they turned it around or why they turned it around. In fact, they have less players active than what they did to start the season when they were 3-22. They shouldn't be playing good baseball right now. And I know they had a tough loss the other day, but I mean, the headline of that game for the Reds was the fact that Tyler Mahle had 6 2/3 shutout, no-hit baseball. The Reds are getting a lot of contributions from their pitchers, and they don't have a whole lot of damn good pitchers. Tyler Mahle's missed some significant time, right? Like Nick Lodolo. We haven't been able to get the full feel of Nick Lodolo, but when he is on the mound, he's pretty damn good for a rookie, especially, and he's out right now. The Reds don't have Justin Wilson. They're going to get Mike Minor for the first time. He'll make his debut coming up this Friday. So help is on the way. You know, could the Reds start losing when they get guys back? I mean, who knows with the way that this season has been in typical Reds form, that could be the case. But I give a lot of credit to David Bell, who I usually am blaming for every struggle in the world for this Reds team. The fact that I think every win that the Reds get over this next couple of weeks, I think is more impressive and is more of an indictment on who a man and what kind of manager David Bell is versus any of the criticisms I've ever given him in years past. You know, my frustration with him is that he has underachieved with very good rosters. When you had rotations with Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer and Tyler Mahle, and you had, Alex Wood, and you obviously, you look at all these lefties that they've had, and, last year, of course, and losing the guys that they did, I'm like, my goodness, there's no excuse for the Reds to be this bad. And then you look at the lineup that had Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas. You know what I mean? Like, how do you lose with those guys? But now you're winning with a bunch of no-name guys. I think winning with no-name guys definitely makes up for the losing with a much more stacked roster, if you will. But I love the development of this Reds team, and they continue to get better. Brandon Drury, how about him? Tommy Pham, we're going to talk about him in a moment. What a weirdo that dude is. But you know what? He's been a difference maker. In fact, the Reds were just destroyed for the moves that they made right before the season started. Moving on from Suarez, moving on from Nick, moving on from Jesse Winker, not even attempting to bring back Nick Castellanos after the lockout ended, trading Sonny Gray. I mean, my goodness, it was just one gut punch after another. But the additions of Brandon Drury and Tommy Pham have kind of made up for that. And now you're going to have Mike Minor, who is another addition. He's going to make his debut on Friday. And, it's been a breath of fresh air to see that the Reds did not ruin Hunter Green, and that Nick Lodolo looked like that, the Reds did a very good job developing him through the system when he's up there. And the Reds still have Lucas Sims that they can rely on, and they're going to get Justin Wilson and some of these other cats back. Like, I feel pretty good about where the Reds are going. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? I don't know. You're probably annoyed that I'm saying I don't know. I may sound like a homer right now, but the bottom line is look what the Reds are doing. If you're going to look at that first 25-game sample size and label them so you're basically saying that the Reds are more of who they were the first 25 games than the most recent 25 games? Technically 23. But you see what I'm saying? 22 tonight will be the 23rd game. But if the Reds win tonight, they will finish the month of May at 14-10. That's pretty dang good, folks. That's very dang good, especially for a franchise that only has 3 total winning months in the previous 3 seasons. So there's that. But tonight, getting a chance to watch the Reds at the Red Sox, pretty damn exciting. I saw someone a little bit ago message into the show saying something along the lines that they wish it was a weekend game, because if it was a weekend game, they would have made sure that they were there at Fenway Park. And I'm down with that. By the way, the Red Sox will be playing at Great American Ballpark later in the season. I'm pretty jacked about that. But this whole watching the Reds at Fenway Park tonight got me to thinking. And this is something I've been preaching for many years, that baseball spends so much time trying to alter the pace of play. Mound visits and pitching changes, and they do all of these things to try to help, enhance the game, improve the game. When I've always stated that really, I don't think pace of play is a problem. In fact, if you're wanting to speed, I think you're skipping steps here, because I think that the product is the problem, not the pace of play. If the product was good, I could watch it for hours. If the product is not good, we're looking for reasons why we want to hurry up and go home. If you're trying to speed it up because fans don't want to watch your product that long or don't want to stay at your product that long, you're skipping steps here. You're trying to find out a way to get people to view your average product for lesser time than trying to come up with ways to improve the product to where they want to watch it longer. You know what? Do you see what I'm saying by that? Like, that's what I've never understood. That if the product, like, for instance, no one has ever complained about how long college football is. I'm the program director of 1410 WING. We program the Ohio State football games. So if a game kicks off at noon, the pregame coverage begins at 10:30 a.m. And if a game that kicks off at noon, it usually ends around 4, and then there's another hour and a half postgame show, which means coverage for us starts at 10:30 a.m. and it doesn't end until about 5:30. That's about 7 to 8 hours of Ohio State football every Saturday. Have any of you ever complained about that? Has any Buckeye fan said, man, that is way too much Buckeye coverage? Has any Buckeye fan said, an hour and a half pregame? I don't want to hear about the Buckeyes for an hour and a half. 3.5 hours to get 4 quarters into football? I don't want to watch Ohio State for 3.5 hours. No, you want to watch them for 4. An hour and a half postgame? Oh, I don't want to hear what Ryan Day has to say. No, you want more. You want as much Buckeye content as possible because the product is so damn good. NFL games, 3 to 3.5 hours. No one complains because the product is so damn good. You want more of it. If the NFL came out today and said, folks, we're going to do our best to make sure that we do everything we can to decrease the length of NFL games, would you be happy about that? No. I want more content. So I find it odd that baseball, their obsession with trying to shorten the length of a game, it's ridiculous. Because if the product is good, I want more of it, not less of it. But if people are saying they want less of it, it's because the product is not worth sitting there for 3.5, 4 hours. Fans will sit there for 4 hours for college football. They'll sit there for 4 hours for the NFL. They'll sit there for a movie. I mean, the average length of a movie back in the 90s was an hour and a half. Now the average length of a movie is 2 hours and 25 minutes. Do people complain when you go to the movie theater and, oh, I got to go watch Top Gun. I got to go watch that for 5 minutes. Almost a 2.5 hour movie. I don't want to go there. When that movie's over, you're like, man, I could have sat there and watched more of that. When good movies come out, when Star Wars, when all the top movies come out, do any of you complain about how long those movies are? No, because the product is so damn good that you want more of it. You don't want less. So that's where I'm at. Baseball skipping steps, their obsession with trying to, instead of improving their product, they're just trying to find ways to take their average product and make you watch it less. Like that is a weird business model to me that I can't get on board with. But their obsession with that is the problem I have, because I think that there are ways that you can improve the product of the game and not really worry about pace of play. For instance, if I am a fan of the Reds, I'm going to be watching them tonight, and they're going to be at Fenway Park, and there's just going to be something special about watching my team play at Fenway Park. It's going to be cool. Right? Like, it's pretty badass. I'm pretty excited for it. It just has a different vibe, a different feel, especially if you get to go watch it in Boston at Fenway Park. If I was to say, folks, we're going to give away, we're all going to go, winners can win tickets to go watch the Reds play at Fenway Park. We'll cover airfare. We'll cover hotel stay, all that stuff. When you get to the ballpark, when you get to Fenway Park, are any of you going to say, oh God, I don't want to be here for 4 freaking hours. Let's speed this up. I want to be in and out by an hour and a half. No. It's Fenway freaking Park, because it's one of the few experiences in baseball that is actually an experience that you want more of. I don't want less Fenway Park. I want more Fenway Park. I don't want less Yankee Stadium. I want more Yankee Stadium. The people in the American League, when they get to experience Wrigley at the limited capacity that we do with Yankee and Fenway and others, do you think that they want to experience Wrigley less? No, they want to experience it more. There's not a lot of great experiences with Major League Baseball. So stop trying to find ways to give that to your fans less and give it to you faster. That doesn't make any sense. So, for instance, here's one way I think that, and I've been saying this for years, to help improve Major League Baseball. What they need to do is to change the scheduling model to where, man, the Reds are playing at the Red Sox this year. For the first time, by the way, since 2014. The last time the Reds were at Fenway Park was 2014. That is bull fill in the blank. That is bullcrap. The product that is Fenway Park is more significant than 90% of Major League Baseball. If that's one of the few experiences that your sport gets to offer is fans getting to watch their team play at a certain ballpark, whether it be on TV or live in person, my goodness. Why are you going to limit that? So this is going to be the last time, for the next 4 or 5 years that we get to watch the Reds play at Fenway Park? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, especially for a sport that plays 162 damn games a season. Every team should play every team every season. Now, I get that you can't get every team to play at every ballpark every season, but every team should play every team every season with every other year switching ballparks. So if the Reds play 4 games at Fenway Park this year, the Red Sox return it and play at GABP the next year. Same thing with the Yankees. Same thing with, the Dodgers they play, but I mean the Dodgers and the Yankees and Dodgers, that should be a series you circle every year on the on the calendar. We don't need to see the Red Sox and Yankees 55 freaking times throughout the season. All right. We should get to see, all right, the Yankees play at Wrigley every year or every other year, but we should definitely see the Cubs play at the Yankee Stadium every other year or every year. Like these are matchups that should be happening every year, not once every 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's 2022 and the Reds are playing at Fenway for the first time since 2014, I believe. I mean, my goodness, that's ridiculous. So baseball, that's what they need to do. And especially think about it when we get closer to the All-Star game. Here's the other problem I have. You're trying to put your product in front of as many of your fans as possible. And with all the blackout rules, it's a little impossible to do at times. So I think it's kind of ridiculous that you want fans to go vote for an all-star game that you don't even get to see more than 80% of the players that are on the ballot in person. I don't get to watch. I mean, it's exciting that, and by the way, we have plenty of tickets we're going to be giving away so you can go watch the Red Sox when they come to GABP later in the summer. But man, I'm going to make sure that I got to see Justin Verlander pitch for the Astros a few years ago. And I'm like, you know what? He probably has another 2, 3, 4 years left in his career. And this is probably the last time I'm going to ever see him pitch. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like that should not be the case. That should not be the case. I think that every team should play every team every season. And if you can't fit in trips for every team every year, then they need to rotate, biannually. If the Reds play at the Yankees this year, then the Yankees play at the Reds next year. But I should not have to not get to witness the Yankees in my, proximity here for 4 or 5 years at a time. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So stop talking to me about pace of play. Stop talking to me about these rule changes, all this other stuff. It's not okay. Like, that's not going to improve the game. But man, you know how I'd fall in love with baseball again real quickly is if every year I knew that I got to go watch the Yankees at GABP. If every year I knew I got to go see, got to see the Red Sox play there. I want to see the Angels. The fact that you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and I don't know when I'm going to get to see those cats play in person again, that's a problem. That's a problem. You want them to be the face of your sport, but yet you're going to alienate an entire half of the country because they're National League teams? Not okay. That is not okay, period. I mean, that's just ridiculous if you ask me, especially because you find ways to get the Guardians in to play the Reds every single season, which is great. But I think that, it's one of those things, or maybe more 2-game series. 2 games against the Yankees at Yankee, 2 games against the Yankees at GABP. Find a way. And by the way, many of you are listening saying, well, I don't know if you could do that and this and that. There's people that get paid millions of dollars to come up with a schedule that works. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I have a hard time believing that the Reds playing the Yankees every year is bad for baseball. I have a hard time believing that the Cubs and the Yankees playing every year is bad for baseball. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get that. And forget the Reds. Let's just talk about the Dodgers. You mean to tell me that the Dodgers playing at Yankee or Fenway every year or every other year, that's a problem? That the Yankees playing at LA every year, that's a problem? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I give it to the NBA. The NBA has the perfect model. They know that they can't do, multiple home and homes throughout the season, but everyone plays everybody. Obviously, there's the issue with stars sitting out of games, but the NBA takes that serious, which is why they're trying to crack down on it. But if I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan or a Pacers fan, I know that once a year I have a chance to see LeBron James come play, or I get to see my team play against LeBron James either at LA or in Cleveland or at LA or in Indiana or Indianapolis. So that's where I'm at with that. But I think that tonight the Reds playing the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park is pretty damn cool. I want you to listen on radio, yes, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be watching on TV because there's something unique and special about watching the Reds play at Fenway Park because it doesn't happen ever. It's so damn rare. And I think that's ridiculous. But tonight is what's good about baseball and bad about baseball all at the same time. Folks, have a great rest of your evening. I appreciate you hanging out with us today. Kevin and I will be back tomorrow. So until then, this has been the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash. We got Reds baseball coming up next right here on Dayton's home of the Reds, 1410 morning AM.
WYNG 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
Players in the spotlight when the Western Conference Final opens tonight. Edmonton's Connor